issued the marching orders. 2 vice heads of state, 10 top great emperor elders, and other great emperors and quasi-emperors. Now, return to make your final preparations. In half a day, we will descend upon the Ice Soul domain, the 5 major war zones. After Gu Qijue finished speaking, everyone, including demigod Gu Qijue and heavenly moon demon emperor, stood up, faced Gu Qijue, bowed and saluted. "We obey the head of state's command." The entire Emperor Star quickly entered a state of battle again. Combat units and war materials from various groups and forces were being urgently mobilized. Gu Qijue also returned to the Infinite Group to make the final preparations. He had an idea: to consume a large amount of resources and energy to create several great Emperor-level war machines. In a battle of this magnitude, the most effective combat power would, of course, be demigods. But the resources and energy he currently possessed made it uneconomical to create temporary demigod-level combat power, and far from enough to create permanent war machines. After all calculations, creating permanent Great Emperor-level war machines was the most cost-effective. Moreover, these Great Emperor-level war machines, along with other war machines, could form specialized resource collection teams. On one hand, they would collect rare resources from the Ice Soul domain. On the other hand, they would specifically attack the most resource-rich areas of the Ice Soul domain. For instance, the Ice Soul Chamber of Commerce, which he visited during his honeymoon with Gu Qijue, had a large accumulation of resources. Thinking of this, Gu Qijue directly ordered the Infinite Engine to consume a large amount of top-tier resources and top-tier materials, especially infinite crystal stone and all the meteorite alloy he possessed, to begin producing great Emperor-level war machines. He already had a considerable amount of infinite crystal stone on hand. He found it very easy to create infinite crystal stone. Other demigods had to exert tremendous effort, consuming twice the energy to create one infinite crystal stone. He could directly absorb and refine the energy from the blood god crystal, so for him, creating infinite crystal stone was simply straightforward. He also discovered that the Infinite Engine was not yet fully developed and could still devour a large amount of energy and top-tier resources for upgrades and further development. Currently, the Infinite Engine could absorb high-purity energy from the blood god crystal, but its efficiency was only about 50% higher than other demigods. As Gu Qijue used the Infinite Engine to produce great Emperor-level war machines, the Infinite Engine's production panel also popped up in his mind. It turned out that great Emperor-level war machines already had many variations and could go beyond mere mechanical aesthetics. On the panel, the first thing he saw, of course, was the mechanical body type. This was a silver war machine, not in the conventional bipedal form, but with 6 legs and 8 arms, equipped with various technological weapons. At first glance, one could feel that this was a perfect killing machine, a terrifying battlefield meat grinder. Gu Qijue was quite interested in this upgraded war machine, but he didn't make a decision immediately. Instead, he looked at the second type of war machine. This was also a mechanical aesthetics type, but it wasn't an intelligent combat machine, it was an intelligent combat mecha. The moment Gu Qijue saw this great Emperor-level intelligent combat mecha, he knew it would definitely be of great use. Currently, materials and energy were limited, so he could only equip Lanzai or Gu Qijue with one set. One was his younger sister, the other his wife. Of course, both were equally precious to him. However, Lanzai would be entering the 4th battlefield and would not encounter danger. Gu Qijue, on the other hand, needed to contend with other quasi-emperors, and might even encounter great emperors. So there was nothing more to say. Gu Qijue would get it first, and Lanzai would get it next time. The reason for not building 2 sets was not a lack of energy, but a lack of meteorite alloy. The strength of his other materials was limited and could not meet the forging requirements. 133. Energy state life and mechanical life due to materials limitations. There are currently only 2 styles of Imperial rank nanite mecha. One is obsidian black, and the other is warm white. Gu Qijue did not hesitate and chose a warm white nanite mecha for Gu Qijue. After the Infinite Engine began manufacturing this set of warm white Imperial rank nanite mecha, Gu Qijue only had enough materials left to forge 3 Imperial rank combat units. Of these 3 Imperial rank combat units, one was naturally a war machine type, the second was an artificial organism type, and the third was very special. It was an energy state combat unit. Gu Qijue wasted no time and immediately chose to manufacture them. Buzz, the Infinite Engine immediately began to roar, and the top-tier resources obtained from conquering the Tianheng domain, along with the top-tier materials and top-tier energy accumulated over a long period, were all consumed in this moment. From the perspective of inventory, it was like decades of hard work vanished overnight. However, apart from the nanite mecha intended for Gu Qijue, the other Imperial rank war machines, Imperial rank energy state lifeforms, and Imperial rank artificial organisms were all his private property. In other words, those super materials and super energy were not consumed, they were transformed into a more useful form to accompany him. Not only that, but Gu Qijue was also considered his private property. After all, Gu Qijue, inside and out from body to soul, belonged to him. While waiting for the infinite engine to produce these 4 items and organisms, Gu Qijue was also contemplating the current deployment. The strength of the Tianheng domain was clearly inferior to that of the Emperor Star, and in the past, they had never even seen technological weapons. Therefore, the entire process of Emperor Star attacking the Tianheng domain was a triumphant advance, sweeping everything aside. They took down the Tianheng domain with almost no effort. The Ice Soul domain was different. Firstly, the Ice Soul domain's strength was far greater than that of the Tianheng domain. Secondly, the Ice Soul domain was prepared to face the Emperor Star and had witnessed the Emperor Star's technological weapons. Thirdly, the Ice Soul domain had received full support from the Black Wind domain, as well as partial support from the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain. This great battle must not be taken lightly, or they would suffer a huge loss. After seriously reviewing his entire deployment in his mind, Gu Qijue gained a lot more confidence. This combat deployment was not solely his arrangement, but the embodiment of the collective wisdom of all the powerhouses of the Emperor Star. There were absolutely no issues with the strategic deployment. Next, it would depend on the performance of the Emperor Star's major groups and major powers in tactical execution. During the battle where the Emperor Star conquered the Tianheng domain, many veteran powers of the Emperor Star were eliminated. Top-tier great emperors like Gu Yong's and Bei Qingshan seized the opportunity to lead their respective groups to rise and become top-tier new nobles. This great battle between the Emperor Star and the Ice Soul domain was destined to be another major reshuffle. Apart from the 2 vice heads of state, the 10 great elders might all be replaced. Some powers might decline, while others would seize the opportunity to rise. If they could completely annex the Ice Soul domain, the elder seats of the Emperor Star could definitely be increased to 24. With the resource reserves of the Ice Soul domain, incubating 14 more Overlord rank powers for the Emperor Star would be no problem at all. The efficiency of the Infinite Engine was extremely high. Gu Qijue did not wait long before the Infinite Group gained 4 Imperial rank combat units. Of course, the nanite mecha would soon be given away, so only 3 Imperial rank combat units could be counted as additions. The Infinite Engine's current manufacturing task has ended. All 4 manufacturing projects were successful. Please check and receive them. Hearing the prompt from the Infinite Engine, Gu Qijue immediately checked the items. The first thing he saw was a set of warm white nanite mecha. This was a humanoid nanite mecha, a highly advanced exoskeleton worn on the body's surface. The optimal wearer was a creature of quasi-imperial strength, but in reality, even a saint-rank creature wearing this nanite mecha could possess imperial rank combat power. After gaining a thorough understanding of this nanite mecha, Gu Qijue raised his hand and beckoned. The nanite mecha quickly transformed, finally condensing into a warm white technological bracelet. This nanite mecha clearly contained not only nanotechnology, but also spatial technology. Given the research capabilities of the Emperor Star's major groups, attempting to replicate such a nanite mecha would inevitably encounter significant technical barriers. But it didn't matter. He had the Infinite Engine and didn't need to understand the technical principles. As long as the materials and energy were sufficient, he could use the Infinite Engine to manufacture various top-tier items. After putting away the nanite mecha bracelet, Gu Qijue's gaze turned toward a black war machine. This was an Imperial rank war mecha, appearing to have 6 legs and 8 arms, equipped with numerous weapons. This war machine felt to Gu Qijue like a dangerous mechanical spider. He checked the panel of this war machine and subsequently named it Heaven's Punishment. Next to the Heaven's Punishment war mecha was an artificially synthesized Imperial rank lifeform. This was a silver-haired youth who looked only 14 or 15 years old. He had silver hair and blue eyes, and arcs of thunderous lightning constantly jumped around his body, just like when Gu Qijue used thunder. Gu Qijue was quite interested in this artificially synthesized Imperial rank lifeform. After checking the entity's panel, He casually said, "Let this emperor see your capability." Upon hearing this, the silver-haired youth immediately bowed to Gu Qijue, and then condensed a ball of silver lightning in his palm. The ball of silver lightning contained terrifying power. After sensing it for a moment, Gu Qijue confirmed that this strike had reached the level of Imperial Rank 9 peak. This meant that the silver-haired youth was capable of fighting peak great emperors like Gu Yong's and the others. However, that wasn't all. The silver thunder in the silver-haired youth's hand quickly transformed into a longbow. It was just that this process was somewhat slow, and the speed at which he condensed arrows using thunder was even slower. Gu Qijue immediately saw the problem. The silver-haired youth's level of comprehension regarding thunder was insufficient. He immediately raised his hand, placed it on the youth's shoulder, and imparted some of his comprehension and insight into thunder to the silver-haired youth via empowerment. After absorbing Gu Qijue's insights, the silver-haired youth was indeed enlightened. When condensing the silver lightning longbow and the silver lightning arrows again, he only took an instant. Seeing this, Gu Qijue naturally nodded in satisfaction. At the same time, he said, "From now on, your name is Yinling Gu Yinling. Your identity is my disciple, and also my adopted son." Gu Yinling was extremely joyful upon hearing this and respectfully knelt on one knee. He was a life form created by Gu Qijue using the infinite engine. To him, Gu Qijue was his god. To be adopted as a son by God, he was naturally the son of God. 134, Emperor Star AI. Nightmare after checking the Heaven's Punishment War Machine and Gu Yinling's condition. Gu Qijue's gaze landed on the mass of dark purple energy state life. Energy state life is considered the ultimate form of life. This view may not be entirely correct. Every type of life has its own evolutionary path and its own ultimate form. The energy state can only be said to be one type of ultimate life form. This mass of dark purple energy state life resembled a constantly shifting nebula. Gu Qijue quickly ordered, "From now on, you shall be called Nightmare. Transform into a human form now." Hearing this, Nightmare immediately transformed into the appearance of Gu Yinling. However, it was an energy state Gu Yinling. Although his assets were completely depleted, Gu Qijue was extremely satisfied with Heaven's Punishment, Gu Yinling, and Nightmare, these 3 Imperial rank combat units. He also named the nanite mecha. The name was Misty Moon. After finishing his inspection of the 3 additional Imperial rank combat units of the Infinite Group, Gu Qijue sent a message to Jia Yinyu's communicator. "Come to the Infinite Group headquarters to my office." After Jia Yinyu received Gu Qijue's message, she asked, sounding confused. "What for?" Gu Qijue played coy. "What else could it be for?" His original intention was, a major war is imminent, what else could he do besides helping Jia Yinyu raise her strength? Jia Yinyu misunderstood, thinking it was yet another trivial matter. Strictly speaking, purifying the bloodline and achieving a bloodline breakthrough is not a trivial matter. It's just that her bloodline had already achieved a breakthrough, but her strength hadn't kept up, so she needed time to consolidate. She was not in a rush regarding bloodline breakthroughs, but since Gu Qijue had spoken, she did not refuse. Soon, she headed to where Gu Qijue was located. Infinite Group Headquarters, top floor, CEO's office. Given the special relationship between Jia Yinyu and Gu Qijue, she could now arrive here with ease. After entering the office, Jia Yinyu nearly blurted out, "If you want to do it, hurry up, I have things to do later." Fortunately, just as the thought appeared in her mind, she noticed 3 other life forms in Gu Qijue's office. She was stunned, and after sensing the Imperial rank aura emanating from these 3 life forms, Jia Yinyu was completely dumbfounded. The Infinite Group is hiding 3 more Imperial rank combat units? She had originally thought that since she spent most of her time next to Gu Qijue, she should have a relatively good understanding of the Infinite Group's situation. But after seeing the mechanical life form Heaven's Punishment, the energy state life Nightmare, and the artificially synthesized life Gu Yinling, Jia Yinyu felt completely unsettled. The Infinite Group hadn't been established for long, yet it gave off an unfathomable feeling. Forget everyone else. Now even Jia Yinyu didn't know how many trump cards the Infinite Group was hiding. While Jia Yinyu was surprised, Gu Qijue nodded with a smile. That's right. They are indeed 3 Imperial rank combat units. Their combat capabilities are no less than those of a peak Imperial rank expert like Gu Yong's. Hearing this, Jia Yinyu was both shocked and amused. Has Gu Yong's, one of the top Imperial rank experts on Emperor Star, become a unit of combat strength measurement for you? Gu Qijue smiled noncommittally, then introduced them to Jia Yinyu. This mechanical life form is Heaven's Punishment, possessing Imperial rank 9 strength. Its technological level surpasses all technology publicly available on Emperor Star. It specializes in spatial jumping and the use of various technological weapons and equipment. It can also perform emergency repairs on various technological weapons and equipment. When Gu Qijue finished the introduction, Heaven's punishment bowed slightly to Jai Yinyu. "Greetings, President Yinyu." Hearing this, Jai Yinyu nodded slightly in return. Her delicate face was filled with shock, and waves of turmoil surged in her heart. The oppressive feeling Heaven's punishment gave her was even stronger than that of Imperial rank Gu Yang's. If they truly fought, Imperial rank Gu Yang's might genuinely not be a match for Heaven's punishment. While Jai Yinyu was utterly astonished, Gu Qijue continued the introductions for her. This is the Energy State Life Nightmare, specializing in energy attacks and mental attacks. After Gu Qijue finished the introduction, Nightmare bowed to him and then bowed to Jai Yinyu. After saluting, Nightmare spoke, "Your Excellency, the head of state, in fact, I can also transform into an information state and launch information-level attacks against various technological weapons." As Nightmare spoke, it transformed into a constantly shifting stream of digits. This ability was terrifying, making it equivalent to a supercomputer virus with extremely high intelligence. Unfortunately, the Shenhuang continent has no technological weapons. Otherwise, Nightmare could really show off its skills this time. Jai Yinyu exclaimed in admiration, "How impressive! It could serve as Emperor Star's light brain." As an Imperial rank energy state life, when Nightmare transformed into an information state digital life, its computational capability was bound to be horrifyingly immense. The overall computational load of the entire Emperor Star might be mere child's play for Nightmare. Hearing this, Nightmare smiled and said, "If Your Excellency, the head of state, requires it, I can immediately enter the systems of all types of technological equipment on Emperor Star. To assist Your Excellency, the head of state, in monitoring and managing the entire Emperor Star." Gu Qijue thought for a moment, then nodded. "Since that is the case, you shall serve as Emperor Star's technological light brain from now on. After connecting successfully, help me relay a few messages." Nightmare bowed to Gu Qijue, then transformed into a data stream and entered the light brain in Gu Qijue's office. The next moment, all smart devices across the entire Emperor Star were monitored by Nightmare. Nightmare's figure appeared on various screens across Emperor Star at that moment. This startled the major organizations and various forces on Emperor Star. Within the Tegu group, Imperial rank Gu Yang's looked bewildered. "What's going on? Has the Tegu group's light brain been hacked?" The same scene was happening in all the other organizations. Gu Qijue's communicator instantly received a large number of emergency reports. It was clear that everyone wanted to report to him about the hacking intrusion into Emperor Star's smart devices. Fortunately, at this moment the images on all screens changed. Gu Qijue's figure also appeared beside Nightmare. Gu Qijue's voice also entered everyone's ears at this moment. "Please don't panic, this is Nightmare, the light brain developed by the Infinite Group for Emperor Star. Nightmare can connect to all smart devices on Emperor Star, providing computational power and empowerment to all of them. Nightmare will monitor various situations on Emperor Star, but will filter out everyone's privacy. Nightmare's existence is primarily to prevent Emperor Star from being infiltrated by hostile forces. At the same time, Nightmare will open up a certain amount of computational power and provide a knowledge base for all major organizations, forces, and individuals." 135 The army is assembled, ready to march. Before Gu Qijue began his explanation, everyone on Emperor Star was quite panicked. If the space device were suddenly hacked while performing a wormhole teleportation, the consequences would be severe. Heaven knows where they might be sent. After understanding the function of Nightmare, many people across Emperor Star began to cheer enthusiastically. Once Nightmare provides computing power for their devices, their smart devices will possess the processing performance of a super light brain. Not only that, but Nightmare will also open its knowledge base to everyone. Knowledge is power. Various technological weapons and products are the monetization of knowledge. Nightmare and the people of Emperor Star also have a mutually beneficial relationship. While people use Nightmare, Nightmare continuously learns, grows, upgrades, and iterates. If this continues, Nightmare might advance to demigod status even earlier than Heaven's punishment and Gu Yinling. Knowing its purpose, the people of Emperor Star were not resistant to Nightmare. Since Gu Qijue controls the Emperor Star will, the people had almost no secrets to speak of before him. As long as Gu Qijue wished to know, he could use the Emperor Star will to investigate. The newly added Nightmare is clearly a weakened version of the Emperor Star will. Nightmare can only function where smart devices are present. If that's the case, having an extra nightmare doesn't hurt. Moreover, under Gu Qijue's leadership, Emperor Star's major corporations and various forces have achieved rapid development. Whether it was Gu Qijue the demigod, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, the 10 great top-tier great emperors, or the other great emperors and quasi-emperors, everyone was willing to follow Gu Qijue's lead and expand the cake that is Emperor Star. After discussing the matter of nightmare with everyone, Gu Qijue instructed them to continue preparations for the war. He then began introducing the artificially synthesized Great Emperor rank lifeform to Jia Yinyu. He is my disciple and adopted son, named Gu Yinling. If you don't mind, I can have him call you adoptive mother or mother. Gu Yinling had long figured out that the relationship between Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu was unusual. When Gu Qijue spoke, Gu Yinling immediately called out to Jia Yinyu without hesitation. Yinling greets Mother Superior. Hearing this, Jia Yinyu could only blush and give Gu Qijue a shy glare. Gu Qijue naturally didn't mind, and he ordered directly, "You three may leave. Special assignments will be arranged for you shortly." Heaven's Punishment, Nightmare, and Gu Yinling replied in unison, "We obey, Your Excellency." The head of state. After the three of them left, Gu Qijue took out a technology bracelet. He placed the technology bracelet on Jia Yinyu's wrist and said, "This bracelet is a gift for you." Jia Yinyu looked at the warm white, translucent technology bracelet on her wrist, very curious as to what it was. She looked at it for a long time, realizing she couldn't understand it at all. So she immediately asked, "What is this?" Gu Qijue didn't answer but instead snapped his fingers. Buzz, the warm white, translucent technology bracelet instantly released a warm white light sphere, completely enveloping Jia Yinyu. In the blink of an eye, a great emperor rank nanite mecha appeared on Jia Yinyu. Inside the nanite mecha, Jia Yinyu, upon realizing what it was, couldn't help but exclaim, "My heavens. An imperial rank peak nanite mecha?" Gu Qijue smiled and nodded. "Yes, it is an imperial rank peak nanite mecha." Jia Yinyu took a deep breath, calmed herself, and then said, "No. This gift is too valuable, I can't accept it." She desperately wanted the Misty Moon nanite mecha with it. She would have the strength to fight great emperor rank enemies, but this gift was truly too precious, she couldn't take it. Gu Qijue waved his hand dismissively and said half-jokingly, "Yours is mine, mine is yours. And since your whole person belongs to me, why bother being so clear about divisions?" Jia Yinyu knew Gu Qijue was teasing her and she could only say, "HMPH. You're annoying. The Misty Moon nanite mecha is controlled by thought and the mecha's intelligence. Right now." The Misty Moon nanite mecha transformed back into a silver bracelet at Jia Yinyu's mental command. She was about to take off the silver bracelet and return it to Gu Qijue. How could she dare accept something so valuable? This gift, let alone being given to her, would be considered a grand present even if given to the Heavenly Moon Empress. Gu Qijue, however, didn't give her a chance to refuse. He swept her up in his arms and kissed her fiercely. At the same time, he said, "If you think it's too valuable and feel awkward accepting it, couldn't you just serve me more diligently in the future?" Jia Yinyu's pretty face flushed red from his teasing, and she angrily retorted, "Get lost, I'll drain you dry sooner or later." Gu Qijue said uncaringly, "Oh really? Then why were you crying and begging for mercy every time we were in the Ice Soul domain before?" Mentioning that, Jia Yinyu could only roll her eyes at Gu Qijue. "It's all your fault. It was like you were trying to take my life." Gu Qijue didn't continue the conversation with Jia Yinyu. A demonic power barrier instantly unfolded, enveloping the entire office. Her fiery red lips were kissed by him once more, across Emperor Star. Major corporations and overlord forces did not know what Chief Gu was up to, but everyone was busy deploying according to the previous combat strategy. As the time for departure approached, Emperor Star's approximately 120 billion combat troops began appearing near various space teleportation devices. Don't forget that top-tier powers on Emperor Star, like the Infinite Group, only have 10 million combat troops. However, the number of top-tier, large, medium, and small corporations on Emperor Star is vast. The situation with various other forces is generally the same. Under these circumstances, the total number of combat units in the Emperor Star allied forces reached 120 billion. Previously, when they attacked the Tianheng domain, they only had 85 billion combat troops. But after they conquered the Tianheng domain, a large number of cultivators from the Tianheng domain surrendered. After screening by Emperor Star's major corporations and forces, a huge amount of additional combat troops were gained. The cultivators of the Tianheng domain had already been stunned by Emperor Star's technological weapons, now that they understood more about Emperor Star and more about the head of Emperor Star. They all realized that Emperor Star was not only not a pirate ship, but a major vessel with immense potential. In this situation, they naturally had to perform well and strive to quickly integrate into Emperor Star and become a part of it. After everyone was ready, Gu Qijue's image appeared on the screens of all smart devices. With only a few minutes remaining before the expedition, the head of Emperor Star was clearly about to deliver his final speech. Emperor Star's 120 billion combat troops all turned their gaze toward the head of Emperor Star on the various screens, waiting for Gu Qijue to issue the final combat order. 136, I will return in glory. As everyone focused intently on the screens, Gu Qijue's voice echoed. In fact, because he controlled the Emperor Star will, Gu Qijue could achieve this even without the Emperor Star's intelligent supercomputer Nightmare. However, this time, it was mainly to test the capabilities of the Nightmare supercomputer. To the 120 billion warriors from the major corporations, major forces, and various other organizations of Emperor Star, today we embark on a new journey. Our target this time is the Ice Soul domain, which is even stronger than the Tianheng domain. This will be a trial of life and death, of blood and fire. Some will fall, while others will experience rebirth through fire and become new nobles. Whether it's death or rising with the momentum is a challenge for everyone. But as the head of Emperor Star, I will lead all demigods, all great emperors, and all quasi-emperors of Emperor Star to create extremely favorable conditions for you to engage in battle with the enemy. As long as everyone faces death to live, then victory and glory will belong to Emperor Star and to each and every one of you. When Gu Qijue spoke to this point, the 120 billion strong combat forces of the entire Emperor Star were completely excited, completely boiling with fervor. The conquest of the Tianheng domain gave everyone immense confidence. The benefits gained from the Tianheng domain, in turn, fueled even greater ambitions. Survival is inherently cruel. If they didn't continuously climb upwards, they might become stepping stones for other life forms. Across Emperor Star, someone first shouted, "Long live Emperor Star," sweeping through armies. "Invincible, victory belongs to Emperor Star. I shall return full of glory." As the enthusiasm of Emperor Star's 120 billion combat troops was fully mobilized, Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star also issued the order to march. Across Emperor Star, Gu Qijue's powerful voice resounded at this moment. "March!" After he spoke, the spatial teleportation devices across Emperor Star began to operate. The number of these spatial teleportation devices was immense. The total number of spatial teleportation devices in all regions even reached tens of millions. Emperor Star's 120 billion combat troops were continuously teleported to the battlefield through these more than 10 million spatial teleportation devices. As time passed, everyone successively arrived at their respective combat zones. Gu Qijue did not use a spatial teleportation device. Instead, he tore through the void realm with a raised hand, directly traversing the spatial rift with his physical body for teleportation. The place he appeared was the first war zone. Soon after he appeared, Old Ancestor Gu Qijue, one of Emperor Star's other two demigod powerhouses, also appeared nearby. As for the Emperor Star will, Gu Qijue did not summon it. The four demigods of the Ice Soul domain, just as Gu Qijue had expected, also appeared not far away, forming a standoff with them. However, neither side made a move, and the Ice Soul domain's demigod Old Ancestor, Bing Feng, stepped forward at this moment. Upon seeing Gu Qijue, demigod Bing Feng spoke with an extremely cold tone. "Chief Gu, have you forgotten who you are after conquering the Tianheng domain? Could it be that you think my Ice Soul domain is as weak and easily bullied as the Tianheng domain?" After demigod Bing Feng spoke, Gu Qijue casually said three words. What else? The meaning of his words was self-evident. That is to say, for him, even if the Ice Soul domain was stronger than the Tianheng domain in the eyes of Emperor Star, it was still a conquerable target. Demigod Bing Feng snorted coldly and said, "Chief Gu, you are far too arrogant. At the demigod level, the Ice Soul domain has one more than Emperor Star. At the Great Emperor level, Emperor Star, even with all its hidden power revealed, only has 35 Great Emperors, while the Ice Soul domain possesses over 50 Great Emperors, which is 1.5 times that of Emperor Star. At the Quasi-Emperor level, the number of Quasi-Emperors in my Ice Soul domain is twice yours. Even for regular combat troops, The total number of cultivator armies in the Ice Soul domain is 1.5 times that of your regular combat troops. Chief Gu, if you are a smart person, you should understand that the Ice Soul domain is not something you can covet. Of course, if Chief Gu is not a smart person, then I also have reason to believe that there isn't not a single smart person on Emperor Star. And the Ice Soul domain is willing to cooperate with the smart people of Emperor Star with the greatest enthusiasm. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, followed by diplomatic means, and lastly, besieging cities. This means that the most brilliant war is one where victory is achieved through strategy and planning. Even before the battle begins, it means that the two sides don't even need to go to war, and one side can already get whatever it wants from the other. The Ice Soul domain clearly did not have such an absolute advantage against Emperor Star, so the demigod leader of the Ice Soul domain used means of division and disintegration. Unfortunately, his tactics were completely ineffective. Emperor Star's 120 billion combat troops now had enough ambition and appetite to devour the Ice Soul domain. They were not easily placated by a few meager offerings from the Ice Soul domain. Therefore, after demigod Bing Feng finished speaking, Gu Qijue smiled and said, "After Emperor Star launched its attack on the Tianheng domain, it swept through with irresistible force. Now Emperor Star's strength has reached a higher level, and since Emperor Star has made up its mind and comes with the might of a great victory, why should the Ice Soul domain be so unappreciative and insist on futile resistance?" Demigod Bing Feng burst into laughter upon hearing this. After several bursts of laughter, he finally spoke, "Chief Gu, you are too conceited. The Ice Soul domain facing Emperor Star is by no means futile resistance. On the contrary, Emperor Star's attack on the Ice Soul domain is like throwing an egg against a rock. It's pointless for us to say more, let's settle it on the battlefield." With that, demigod Bing Feng's majestic voice swept across the entire Ice Soul domain. "All sects, all forces, and all cultivators of the Ice Soul domain, heed my command. Since the people of Emperor Star have traveled billions of miles to seek death, then let's grant their wish." Demigod Bing Feng's voice echoed in the ears of every cultivator in the Ice Soul domain across all 5 war zones. The Ice Soul domain's cultivator army was composed of local cultivator armies from the Ice Soul domain, as well as cultivators from the Black Wind domain, and cultivators from the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain. It could actually be called a 4-domain allied army. It was just that the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain contributed little. The Ice Soul domain allied army's regular forces numbered a terrifying 180 billion. The participating large sects, hegemonic forces, and ancient aristocratic families with long legacies combined exceeded 3,000. As demigod Bing Feng's voice reverberated throughout the entire domain, these approximately 180 billion cultivator armies also began to move at this moment. 137, please. She's the heiress of the infinite group. The Ice Soul domain's army of 180 billion cultivators was relatively evenly distributed across the 5 major battle zones. Each battle zone had approximately 36 billion cultivators, spread across various smaller battlefields. Opposite the Ice Soul domain allied forces was the 120 billion strong Emperor Star allied forces. They were rapidly arriving at their respective battlefields according to prior strategic deployment. Facing the rich and fertile land of the Ice Soul domain, the Emperor Star's combat units could no longer hide the ambition and greed in their eyes. Although Emperor Star was at a numerical disadvantage in terms of combat power at all levels, the Emperor Star allied forces didn't feel much about this. The 4th battle zone, where the Ice Soul domain and Emperor Star clashed, was primarily a battlefield for King rank and a very small number of Emperor rank combat units. The elites of Emperor Academy, namely Lanzai, Jai Shang, Ape Emperor, Cute Treasure, and others, were all present on this battlefield. The Emperor Star allied forces had approximately 24 billion combat units in the 4th battle zone. They were divided into groups of 1 billion combat units, each responsible for a section of the 4th battle zone. Lanzai and her group would soon follow Silver Wing for special training. The results of their special training were astonishing. At this moment, the aura emanating from everyone was at the Emperor rank early stage. In the first 3 battlefields, Emperor rank early stage was nothing remarkable, but in the 4th battlefield, Emperor rank could already be considered a strong expert. When the Ice Soul domain allied forces made their move, Jai Shang and the others did not act rashly. Not just them, but the entire Emperor Star Alliance army made no moves at this time. They were all waiting for the order to commence battle, and after the major groups, major powers, and small and medium-sized organizations within the Emperor Star Alliance were basically all ready. Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star also issued the combat order. Gu Qijue's order was very simple. Only 2 words, commence battle. As his voice fell, immediate changes occurred on the vast and boundless battlefield, above and below. 120 billion Emperor Star combat units instantly launched an attack on the Ice Soul Domain allied forces. Vice Head of State, Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor of Emperor Star. The 10 peak Great Emperors of Emperor Star, Dao Taihuang, Gu Yangs, Bei Qingshan, Yi Changshuan, and other Great Emperors, all plunged into the battle group immediately. Approximately 30 Great Emperors from the Emperor Star allied forces quickly began clashing with 50 Great Emperors from the Ice Soul Domain allied forces. The Quasi-Emperors, Saint rank, Emperor rank, King rank, and all other regular combat units from both sides also began fighting at this moment. As the stabilizing force for both sides, neither the 4 demigods of the Ice Soul Domain nor the 3 demigods of Emperor Star personally entered the fray at this time. Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star stood proudly in the air, his aura dominating the heavens and earth, undoubtedly injecting a potent morale boost into the Emperor Star allied forces. Gu Qijue seemed to have no inhibitions, completely disregarding the Ice Soul Domain allied forces, with the chief so powerful and domineering. The strong experts in combat units at all levels of Emperor Star were naturally not timid in the slightest. On the 4th battlefield, Jai Shang had already made his move. His current fighting style was that of a pure mechanical martial artist. Mechanical martial artists are also known as mech martial artists. They fight by wearing mecha exoskeletons and using weapons like laser swords. Wrapped in a mechanical exoskeleton, Jai Shang wielded a blue glowing light sword and began slaughtering all in his path as soon as the battle started. Boom! Facing an attack from an Ice Soul Domain Emperor rank expert, the silver mecha worn by Jai Shang dodged the opponent's spirit art with incredible agility. Boom, boom, boom! His opponent was a cultivator skilled in using flame spirit arts. Explosive fireballs, each the size of a millstone, continuously whistled towards Jai Shang, but without exception, they were all easily avoided by Jai Shang's nimble movements. Swish! After his figure flashed several Z shapes in midair, the light sword in his hand easily pierced through the opponent cultivator's body. When Jai Shang appeared behind his opponent, the cultivator's body separated at the waist. In less than 10 breaths, an Emperor rank cultivator from the Ice Soul Domain was easily cut in half by Jai Shang. This showed how astonishing his cultivation achievements had been during this period. This scene was, of course, witnessed by many in the 4th battle zone. Tian Lei and Wang Hao were also elites of Emperor Academy. Their performance in the academy was initially even better than Jai Shang and the others. But now, Tian Lei and Wang Hao's eyes were full of envy. Wang Hao spoke with extreme envy and jealousy. "Sai, it's different when Infinite Group gives them special treatment. Leaving others aside, Jai Shang fought me 5 times. And his record was 3 losses, 1 win, and 1 draw. He was no match for me at all. Now, if I were to fight Jai Shang with his mecha and light sword, he could instantly kill me in 1 encounter?" Tian Lei nodded in agreement. "There's nothing we can do about it. They were followers of Chief Gu a long time ago. Now, not only can they receive special training from Infinite Group's strong experts and use Infinite Group's advanced training bases, at the same time, they can also gain empowerment from Infinite Group's advanced technology. From the moment Chief Gu rose, their trend of soaring to great heights became unstoppable. But we don't need to be disheartened. As long as we make enough contributions to Emperor Star, we can also gain the chief's attention." Tian Lei had a relatively good mindset. Moreover, her relationship with Lanzai was excellent, and she even knew this time. Lanzai, as the young miss of Infinite Group, brought a lot of black technologies developed by Infinite Group. Thinking of Lanzai, Tian Lei's gaze began to search for Lanzai's figure on the battlefield. Before long, she spotted Lanzai. As her gaze turned to Lanzai, Wang Hao also looked over. Then Tian Lei and Wang Hao witnessed a hair-raising scene. Lanzai took out a portable laser cannon from her spatial device. The portable laser cannon quickly completed charging within 3 to 5 breaths. Boom, then. A blue transparent laser, almost annihilating everything, fired instantly. Boom, 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 boom. All Ice Soul Domain cultivators who appeared in front of the blue laser, whether King rank or Emperor rank. Before this one shot, they were all utterly shattered on the spot. Hiss! Seeing such a scene, Tian Lei and Wang Hao, as well as the surrounding people, couldn't help but gasp in shock. They were all dumbfounded, eyes wide with disbelief. At this moment, they were truly stunned. Wang Hao exclaimed in shock, "What the hell, is Infinite Group's infinite laser cannon that powerful?" As he was astonished. Cute Treasure's light chuckle came out. "Are there any weak technological weapons in Infinite Group with infinite as a prefix?" 138. Missile bombardment, mech assault. Hearing this, Tian Lei and Wang Hao both sighed and shook their heads with a smile. Indeed, within the Infinite Group, any technological weapon named with the words infinite is the finest of the fine. Lan Zai's own strength was already extremely formidable. Coupled with a full set of Infinite Group's technological weapons, she could easily become invincible among peers and fight across ranks. Compared to Jai Shang and Lan Zai, the Infinite Group also had two special forces units conducting special operations. So-called special operations are battles deep behind enemy lines to collect resources. Gu Yinling, along with Heaven's Punishment, was currently leading the Infinite Group's elite war machines to gather resources behind the Ice Soul domain and throughout its various locations. Wherever there were top-tier resources, their presence could be found. Of course, this wasn't because Gu Qijue was being unkind. It was because the Infinite Group had already fulfilled its obligations in this war. Under such circumstances, the Infinite Group naturally had the right to deploy two special units to collect enemy resources. Moreover, collecting enemy resources also served to weaken the enemy's strength. Gu Yinling and the Heaven's Punishment war machine both possessed peak Great Emperor strength. As long as demigods didn't intervene, the Ice Soul domain was their paradise. At this moment, Gu Yinling transformed into a silver lightning bolt, instantly piercing the heart of a Great Emperor from the Ice Soul domain. This Ice Soul domain Great Emperor was guarding a Divine Spirit Crystal treasury. Divine Spirit Crystal is one of the top-tier resources in the Ice Soul domain, and even the Shenhuang continent. Spirit crystals generally come in low-grade, medium-grade, high-grade, and supreme-grade. Above supreme-grade spirit crystals, there are resources with extremely pure and high energy. That is, Divine Spirit Crystal. Divine Spirit Crystal is hard currency throughout the entire Shenhuang continent. The reserves of Divine Spirit Crystal on the Shenhuang continent are not very large. There is also a theory that Divine Spirit Crystal is Blood God Crystal, purified by unknown powerful experts. Before the birth of the current civilization on the Shenhuang continent, an ancient civilization should have existed here. That ancient civilization possessed the means to convert Blood God Crystal into Divine Spirit Crystal. Of course, this is just speculation and has not been confirmed, but the fact that Divine Spirit Crystal is a good thing is beyond doubt. After Gu Yinling eliminated the peak Great Emperor guarding the Divine Spirit Crystal treasury, he casually waved his hand. Immediately, numerous war machines swarmed forward, ready to open the treasury. After many war machines and a few elite mercenaries attempted, one mercenary came before Gu Yinling and respectfully said, "Young master, the treasury cannot be opened." This mercenary was also a powerful expert trained by the Infinite Group itself. His name was Thunderbird, and he currently possessed Saint-tier strength. Hearing this, Gu Yinling laughed and said, "Interesting, even the defense level of the treasury door is this high?" As he spoke, he also arrived in front of the treasury's bronze door. The attacks by Thunderbird, the other mercenaries, and the war machines on the treasury did not have much effect. The treasury door remained tightly shut. After Gu Yinling arrived and observed for a moment, he suddenly unleashed a silver flash of lightning. Boom! A silver thunderous blade light swept across, slicing toward the bronze door. The bronze door, which moments ago was indestructible and impenetrable, was instantly melted by the terrifying high temperature of the silver thunder, collapsing with a crash. Having done all this, Gu Yinling waved his hand casually. "Go in and transport the supplies." The top-tier resources of the Ice Soul domain were stored in 3 places. The first place was inside the storage magic treasures of the Ice Soul domain's demigods, peak Great Emperors, and Quasi-Emperors. The second place was the strictly guarded secret treasuries scattered everywhere. The third place was the warehouses near the resource collection points. The biggest advantage of doing this was not putting all their eggs in one basket, thereby diversifying risk. If everything was placed on powerful experts, wouldn't all those resources benefit the enemy once those experts were eliminated? What Gu Yinling was currently leading people to raid was actually a warehouse, not a secret treasury. Secret treasuries were heavily guarded. and their locations were top secret within the Ice Soul domain, making them impossible to find quickly. Gu Yinling's side was proceeding smoothly, and Heaven's Punishment side naturally encountered no trouble either. The 4 demigods of the Ice Soul domain were currently tied down, so Gu Yinling and Heaven's Punishment would essentially not encounter enemies. At the same time, on the battlefields of the 5 Great War Zones, the clash between the two sides was extremely fierce. In the first war zone, Gu Qijue, the Emperor's Star Will, and old ancestor Gu Qijue did not make a move. But several great emperors of Emperor Mountain were already leading the Emperor Star's conventional combat units in a continuous advance. The Ice Soul domain already knew the Emperor Star's fighting style and the power of their technological weapons, but they lacked effective countermeasures, at least in mobile warfare. The Ice Soul domain allied forces were completely at a disadvantage. This prompted the Ice Sealing demigod of the Ice Soul domain to make a decisive adjustment. Listen up. Ice Soul domain cultivator allied forces. Switch from offense to defense, enter the various defensive positions in the rear, and engage them in positional warfare. The Ice Soul domain cultivators were fighting on home ground and possessed a huge advantage. After the Ice Sealing demigod issued the order, roughly 170 billion Ice Soul domain cultivator allied forces retreated like a tide, entering the defensive positions they had long prepared. These defensive positions included towers and numerous cities. Powerful formations also appeared one after another at this time. The Emperor Star allied forces would next need to engage the Ice Soul domain cultivator allied forces in positional offense and defense warfare. In positional offense and defense warfare, the defending side holds a massive advantage. They could easily obtain supplies and breathing room, and they could rely on various defensive structures to launch defensive counterattacks. However, what the Ice Sealing demigod miscalculated was that Gu Qijue had no intention of engaging him in positional offense and defense warfare. Gu Qijue's order simultaneously echoed across the battlefield, reverberating in the ears of the Emperor Star allied forces 110 billion combat units. Set up camp on the spot, clear the battlefield, and process the spoils of war. At the same time, set up various large and colossal technological weapons, and prepare to attack the cities. Gu Qijue was not prepared to directly send the Emperor Star allied forces to attack the towers and cities enveloped by numerous formations. Doing so would result in enormous losses for the Emperor Star allied forces. They could completely rest and reorganize on the spot, while simultaneously transporting more technological weapons from the rear. When the time came, with all the various missile emplacements set up, they wouldn't need to use flesh and blood to assault the cities. They could simply carpet bomb the area with missiles. They would first launch a saturation attack using overwhelming missiles and various laser weapons. After that was done, various large mechas and different types of mechas would launch another round of charge. The 110 billion allied forces of the Emperor Star could then execute infantry armor coordination, meaning they would follow behind the large mechas, colossal mechas, and various vehicles to pick up the slack. In short, although the Ice Soul domain was stronger than the Tianheng domain, it was also a tough nut to crack for the Emperor Star. But the strength of the Ice Soul domain was still unable to halt the Emperor Star's march of conquest. 139. The east wind releases 1,000 trees of flowers at night on the boundless battlefield. One spatial wormhole after another was opened. Following this, giant alloy beasts were continuously transported out of the wormholes. These numerous massive alloy beasts began to rapidly transform and assemble after appearing, one after another. Even larger alloy weapons continuously took shape during this process. Such a scene was clearly something the Ice Soul domain had not anticipated. According to their plan, if it were a mobile war between two armies, they would not be a match for Emperor Star. They would then quickly retreat to various cities, towers, and their respective mountain gates, relying on these fortifications to engage in positional warfare against the outsiders from Emperor Star. However, the reality was completely different from what everyone had imagined. Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star did not order a continued pursuit at all. Instead, he began continuously transporting large-scale technological weapons from the rear. In the sky, a large number of interstellar warships had begun charging energy. On the ground, missile sites were rapidly being set up, one area after another. In the rear, giant war mechas, dozens to hundreds of stories tall, were also rapidly assembled. The Icebound demigod, along with the 5 major war zones of the Ice Soul domain, comprising approximately 170 billion cultivators, felt a growing unease as they watched the changes everywhere. However, they did not charge out at this moment. Although they did not understand the principles behind Emperor Star's technological weapons, they were quite confident in their formations and various magic treasures. Gu Qijue stood proudly in the sky, his gaze sweeping across the 5 major war zones. Beside him was Gu Qijue the demigod, another demigod-rank combatant of Emperor Star. Gu Qijue the demigod looked at the thousands of missile sites, both large and small, below and sighed with a smile. Using missiles to carpet bomb like this, I wonder how much money it will burn through. Gu Qijue nodded. There's no other way, otherwise, during the previous siege, we would have been at a disadvantage. They hide inside their formations, and our combat troops can't do anything to them, while they can inflict damage on our troops. First, we use missiles to blast open their various mountain protection great formations and city protection great formations. Then, we let the numerous giant mechas and giant vehicles charge, and finally, the main army advances. If no unexpected changes occur, a single round of attack like this will be enough to completely crush the Ice Soul domain. Afterward, the remnants of the Ice Soul domain will either gather somewhere to continue their stubborn resistance, or a demigod war will break out, where our 3 face their 4 demigods. Gu Qijue the demigod nodded upon hearing this. With his knowledge, he naturally understood that everything Gu Qijue said was correct. However, he still thought of a problem. What if the Black Wind domain sends more demigod experts to reinforce them, creating a 5-on-3 situation? Gu Qijue smiled and said, I have 2 powerful trump cards that I haven't used yet. When the situation is critical, fighting 1 against 3, or even 1 against 5, is not a problem for me. He was referring to 2 other high-level combat forms. In fact, as time passes, he is close to comprehending his 4th high-level combat form. After speaking, Gu Qijue added, furthermore, the Black Wind domain absolutely dares not do this. The Black Wind domain has already dispatched a demigod, a large number of great emperors, a large number of quasi-emperors, and a large number of conventional combat troops to support the Ice Soul domain. If they continue to send experts here, the Black Wind domain will become a vault without security or guards for the surrounding forces. At that time, the Black Wind domain itself will be torn to shreds by the hungry wolves surrounding it. Speaking of this, Gu Qijue paused. Of course, the Black Wind domain might also reach an agreement with the surrounding forces, asking all parties to exercise restraint and not attack the Black Wind domain. If we encounter that situation, revealing 1 or even 2 of my trump cards will be enough to stabilize the situation. With these words from Gu Qijue, Gu Qijue the demigod was naturally completely reassured. From the 1st war zone all the way to the 5th war zone, missile sites were being rapidly deployed. The 2 resource exploration teams of the Infinite Group, the Gu Yinling team and the Heaven's Punishment team, had already withdrawn at this time. They had retreated at the same time the Ice Soul Domain Coalition forces withdrew earlier. Otherwise, they would have been caught red-handed by the Ice Soul Domain Coalition forces. However, they did not retreat to the rear. Instead, they continued to collect resources outside the combat zone. As time passed, pieces of information were continuously compiled and sent to Gu Qijue's communicator. Every piece of information indicated that a missile site had been fully set up. After the vast majority of missile sites were completely set up, Gu Qijue did not wait any longer but decisively gave the order. His majestic and commanding voice echoed between heaven and earth. All Emperor Star combat units heed my command. All missile sites, commence continuous saturation attacks. Fire! When the word fire fell from Gu Qijue's lips, an extremely spectacular and shocking scene unfolded. Boom, 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 boom. Overwhelming missiles, dragging blue tail flames, continuously blasted towards the various mountain gates, towers, and cities. Seeing this scene, the icebound demigod of the Ice Soul domain did not hesitate either. His majestic voice also spread everywhere. Awaken all formation spirits, deploy all defensive magic treasures, as the command was issued. Above each top-tier protective formation, streaks of multicolored light and shadow intertwined to form strange and wonderful formation spirits. Some formation spirits were gigantic dark tortoises, while the more powerful ones were directly the legendary black tortoises. Other formation spirits were gigantic golden bells. There were also formation spirits that took the form of divine beings wielding giant axes. This divine being phantom was also dozens of stories high. When the missiles whistled past, the phantom wielded its giant axe and cleaved the missiles in half. There were also some formation spirits that fought bare-handed, yet they were equally formidable. They grabbed a missile with one palm and crushed it instantly. However, not all great formations possessed formation spirits. Some formations had limited strength and were completely shattered after enduring a dozen or so missiles. The cultivators hiding behind the great formations soared into the sky one after another. Some slower ones were directly sent flying by subsequent missiles on the spot. They had originally been eagerly waiting for the combat units of the Emperor Star Group to attack the cities in the most primitive way. Using human lives, who would have thought the times had changed? Carpet bombing with missiles was far more efficient than attacking cities with human lives. Boom, 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 boom. Thousands of missile sites continuously launched various types of missiles, soaring into the sky and relentlessly bombarding the numerous protective great formations. Although a considerable number of missiles were intercepted by the formation spirits, the Ice Soul Domain coalition forces were once again at a disadvantage. If this continued, it was clearly only a matter of time before the protective great formations were blasted open. 140, Fog Moon Mech, activate, behind the Ice Soul Domain. Above the nine heavens, the icebound demigod's gaze kept changing. The demigod from the Black Wind Domain who came to support the Ice Soul Domain was named Gu Qijue. This was a demigod wearing silver armor magic treasure and holding a Fangshan halberd. Demigod Gu Qijue watched for a moment, then helplessly said, "The Emperor Star's technological weapons are too powerful. Being passively beaten like this is not a solution. Instead of passively taking a beating, it's better to directly ignite a demigod war. Let the Ice Soul Domain allied forces launch a countercharge. If we can seize some of the Emperor Star's technological weapons, we can also use their weapons to teach them a lesson. Perhaps our artifact refiners can even replicate their technological weapons. From now on, when we face the Emperor Star, they will no longer have the advantage of technological weapons." Demigod Gu Qijue's strength was formidable, but his ideas were very naive. It was like Zheng Guofan seeing Western gunboat formations and wanting blacksmiths to hammer out a gunboat formation. But technological products cannot be simply hammered out. The icebound demigod did not agree to demigod Gu Qijue suggestion. The icebound demigod pondered for a moment and said, "Most of our defensive formations have extremely powerful defensive capabilities. These defensive formations can continuously draw the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from the Ice Soul Domain for defense. The Emperor Star's technological weapons cannot attack endlessly. When they are almost exhausted, that will be the best time for us to counterattack." Demigod Gu Qijue heard this and was unimpressed. He still believed that launching a charge now was the best option. Moreover, he didn't understand why. With 4 demigods against 3 demigods, the advantage was completely on their side, so what was there to hesitate about? If the Emperor Star had more demigods, they might have started a demigod war as soon as they arrived. The icebound demigod naturally understood that his words just now had not convinced the hot-headed demigod Gu Qijue. The reason he didn't start a demigod war was that he wasn't absolutely confident of victory. If the Ice Soul Domain won after the conventional forces clashed, the Emperor Star might retreat. But once a demigod war broke out, if the Ice Soul Domain's demigods lost, then the Ice Soul Domain would be completely finished. Such a simple principle. Yet demigod Gu Qijue couldn't understand it. It could only be said that this guy's head was full of developed muscles. With no brain, above the Emperor Star allied forces, Gu Qijue and demigod Daikui stood proudly in the air. Both were standing by in full readiness. Gu Qijue ready to summon the Emperor Star will at any moment. The Emperor Star's technological weapons once again displayed their divine might and shone brightly. Breaching numerous protective grand formations was now only a matter of time. Boom, 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 boom. Overwhelming missiles continuously bombarded for a full 90 minutes. Most of the Ice Soul Domain's protective grand formations reached their limit after stubbornly holding out for 90 minutes and began to continuously shatter. Crack. Crack. After the protective grand formations shattered, the cultivator army inside soared into the sky. Gu Qijue made a decisive order. "All combat units of the Emperor Star allied forces listen to my command. All mechas. All tanks, all attack vehicles. Charge!" As Gu Qijue's command was issued, approximately 110 billion combat units of the Emperor Star allied forces quickly responded. Boom! One after another, giant mechas, dozens or hundreds of stories tall, began to advance rapidly. Around the giant mechas, various floating gunships continuously retreated. Other infantry fighting vehicles, small aircraft, and a large number of loitering munitions all whistled towards the Ice Soul Domain allied forces at this moment. In the eyes of the Ice Soul Domain's cultivator army, there were overwhelming numbers of various machines and missiles. And at some unknown moment, a laser beam as thick as a bucket would suddenly pierce through the void realm. Upon being hit by a laser weapon, they would instantly be pulverized. The Emperor Star allied forces from the 5 major war zones also let out roars at this time. Charge, 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 under the continuous assault of everyone. The Ice Soul Domain's cultivator army was forced to engage the Emperor Star allied forces once again. But even at this point, no demigod-level war had broken out between the two sides. Among the Emperor Star allied forces, Gu Yang's, Dao Taihuang, Bei Qingshan, and Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, along with other top great emperors, were all unleashing their full power, slaughtering in all directions. However, on one battlefield, Jia Yinyu encountered trouble. She did not encounter a great emperor-level expert from the Ice Soul Domain, but she was surrounded by a large number of quasi-emperors and many peak Saintrank cultivators who were besieging her. The situation on the battlefield changed in an instant. Not long ago, the number of quasi-emperors and Saintrank experts from the Ice Soul Domain on this battlefield was not very large. In the blink of an eye, a large number of quasi-emperors suddenly appeared from somewhere unknown. Jia Yinyu originally didn't want to easily reveal her trump card, intending to use her Mist Moon Mecha to ambush enemy great emperors. But now, not revealing her trump card was no longer an option. The number of quasi-emperors and Saintrank enemies around her was already very high. And the cultivators of the Ice Soul Domain seemed to have all taken her for a soft target, intending to quickly beat her to death. The closest Ice Soul Domain quasi-emperor to Jia Yinyu even arrogantly declared, "Beauty, if you don't surrender soon, your head will roll." After this quasi-emperor spoke, the other surrounding Ice Soul Domain quasi-emperors burst into laughter. "Beauty, you're so pretty, wouldn't it be a shame if you died like this? Quickly surrender, don't force us to be ruthless." These few, though arrogant, still had basic decency. Other quasi-emperors and even Saintrank experts continuously spewed various vulgarities. Jia Yinyu, of course, wasn't going to tolerate them. Buzz, a layer of white light quickly flowed from her right wrist, covering her entire body. In an instant, a set of Mist Moon Nanite Mecha completely enveloped Jia Yinyu's body. A terrifying aura of a peak great emperor also emanated from the mecha. Everyone who had been frantically chasing Jia Yinyu from behind looked as if they had seen a ghost at this moment. Not good. Quickly retreat? How is that possible? While countless tumultuous waves surged in everyone's hearts, Jia Yinyu had already punched out in midair. Boom! At this moment, she seemed to have transformed into a dragon, punching open the heavens. This punch was incomparably fierce, its power terrifying and overbearing to the extreme. As the punch struck, wherever its chi passed, both Saintrank and quasi-emperors were, without exception, pulverized into dust by a single punch, those behind who were also involved in chasing Jia Yinyu, but at a greater distance. Upon seeing this scene, they immediately turned and fled without a word. But after a blur before their eyes, Jia Yinyu, clad in the Mist Moon Nanite Mecha, had already appeared in front of them. Jia Yinyu chuckled. "Weren't you all enjoying the chase just now?" 141. What does it mean to be invincible? I am invincible. Several Saint-rank cultivators, along with a few quasi-emperors, dared not respond to Jia Yinyu. The moment they saw Jia Yinyu, they immediately fled again. Given the huge disparity in strength, they clearly couldn't escape. Jia Yinyu smacked down with her palm, instantly causing these quasi-emperors and Saint-rank cultivators to explode into bloody mist. After eliminating these cultivators, Jia Yinyu began searching for the top great emperors of the Ice Soul Domain to engage them in battle. Up until now, the Ice Soul Domain's defeat was essentially sealed. Compared to the Tianheng Domain, the Ice Soul Domain undoubtedly performed better. They learned from the experience of the Tianheng Domain's demise and completely sealed off the Ice Soul Domain during the early stage, making it nearly impossible for Emperor Star's spies to gather any useful information. If head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star hadn't acted unconventionally, secretly infiltrating the Ice Soul Domain to gather intelligence despite being the leader of Emperor Star, then Emperor Star's understanding of the Ice Soul Domain would have been extremely limited. If the war between the Tianheng Domain and Emperor Star were given 40 points for the Tianheng Domain's performance, then the Ice Soul Domain's response could be rated at least 60 points. They had many clever countermeasures, but ultimately they were still no match for the Emperor Star allied forces. At this moment, the demigod war naturally erupted, becoming unavoidable. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar sounded, and a massive black dragon, obscuring the sky and sun, joined the battlefield. the incarnation of the Ice Soul domain, will also met the Emperor Star will at this time. The two demigod-level combat powers fiercely clashed. Immediately afterward, Wei Zio, the demigod powerhouse from the Black Wind domain, also made his move. Gu Qijue, Old Ancestor, the demigod powerhouse of Emperor Star, stepped forward to meet Wei Zio. At this moment, the two demigods of the Ice Soul domain, Icy Seal demigod and Ice Killen demigod, also appeared before Gu Qijue. This time, Icy Seal demigod did not continue to say that Emperor Star was trying to smash stones with eggs, because facts speak louder than words. The facts had already proven that the Ice Soul domain's 180 billion cultivator army was truly no match for Emperor Star's 120 billion cultivator allied forces. Icy Seal demigod looked at Gu Qijue, gritted his teeth and said, "Foreign thief, prepare to die." Boom! As his voice fell, the terrifying aura of Icy Seal demigod, capable of shaking heaven and earth and shattering space, swept across the world. Streaks of astonishing cold chi seemed intent on completely freezing this entire world. Although the Ice Soul domain allied forces were no match for the Emperor Star allied forces, it must be said that the top demigods of the Ice Soul domain still possessed extremely formidable combat power. Roar! The Ice Killen demigod let out an earth-shattering roar, transforming into a massive Icy Killen, staring at Gu Qijue with surging killing intent. Facing two demigods simultaneously, Gu Qijue showed no fear whatsoever. Chillalala, rumble, between heaven and earth. Countless streaks of blood chi and thunder madly converged upon him. The armor on his body was no longer just thunder armor, but blood-thunder battle armor, jointly materialized by thunder and blood chi. The battle saber in his hand was also not merely the thunder battle saber, but the blood-thunder slashing saber. His entire body's aura was at least 40% stronger than the last time he fought the Heavenly Sword demigod. However, Icy Seal demigod and Ice Killen demigod were not flustered. The two of them simultaneously launched a fierce attack against Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue naturally didn't flinch, raising his blood-thunder battle saber to meet their attack head-on. Suddenly, an earth-shaking demigod war erupted. Roar! The Icy Killen opened its mouth and spewed out overwhelming cold chi, continuously enveloping Gu Qijue. Swish, swish, swish! In Gu Qijue's hand, the blood-thunder battle saber continuously swung. Boom, boom, boom! Streaks of saber light containing terrifying power continuously collided with the cold chi. Although the Icy Killen's cold chi was formidable, it was continuously scattered by Gu Qijue's saber light, posing no threat to him whatsoever. In the hand of Icy Seal demigod, a greatsword appeared. Holding the greatsword, he fiercely chopped down towards Gu Qijue's head and face. This sword strike overflowed with cold chi, and the space itself was instantly frozen solid by his extremely chilling sword chi. The blood-thunder battle saber in Gu Qijue's hand instantly met the attack as Icy Seal demigod's sword descended. Clang! After the two clashed head-on, Gu Qijue stood proudly in the air, showing little reaction. Icy Seal demigod, however, was shaken several steps backward in midair by the terrifying force of the rebound. This scene was truly too shocking. It caused the gazes of Icy Seal War God and the Icy Killen to become extremely solemn. An expert's first move reveals everything. From that simple collision just now, Icy Seal demigod discovered a very terrifying fact. That is, he, a true demigod powerhouse, was actually no match for Gu Qijue, this fake demigod. That's right, the current Gu Qijue was still only at the peak imperial rank realm, but possessed demigod strength, yet this fake demigod was actually stronger than a genuine demigod. How could Icy Seal War God not be shocked? However, Icy Seal demigod did not hesitate and quickly launched another fierce attack against Gu Qijue. Clang! When his next sword strike arrived, Gu Qijue didn't hold back this time. Fiercely slashing out with his saber, blood chi and thunder filled the sky, dancing wildly. This saber strike possessed astonishing and terrifying might. When the saber strike landed, a gap was cut into the greatsword held by Icy Seal demigod. As for Icy Seal demigod himself, he was instantly blasted backward by this single saber strike. While Gu Qijue and Icy Seal demigod were fighting, the Icy Killen also viciously swiped a claw toward the back of Gu Qijue's heart. But after Gu Qijue sent Icy Seal demigod flying with one saber strike, he countered with a punch and clashed fiercely with the Icy Killen again. His formidable strength was fully revealed at this moment, stunning the 200 billion-plus troops on both sides. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out, and the space around Gu Qijue became distorted, making it impossible to clearly see the battle situation. But everyone could still clearly see the sight of the Ice Soul Domain demigod, Icy Killin, being blasted backward by Gu Qijue. He sent Icy Seal War God flying with one saber strike and blasted Icy Killin War God away with one punch. Even when fighting 1 against 2, he possessed such immensely powerful and domineering combat strength. If it were a one-on-one fight, he could clearly use the swiftness of a violent storm to quickly kill Icy Seal Demigod. The battle situations on the other 2 demigod battlefields were relatively intense. The Emperor Star Will and the Ice Soul Domain Will were evenly matched. Gu Qijue Demigod and Wei Zio Demigod from the Black Wind Domain were also exchanging blows back and forth. Only Gu Qijue's position managed to break the stalemate. His terrifying combat power made Icy Seal Demigod feel unprecedented pressure. But there was no choice. He and Icy Killin War God could only brace themselves and charge forward. The Emperor Star allied forces were extremely excited to see the head of Emperor Star so powerful and domineering. The morale, which was already high, instantly soared to the peak at this moment. On the Ice Soul Domain side, many cultivator armies were already contemplating retreat. They were at a disadvantage both on the demigod battlefield and the conventional battlefield. So why continue fighting? 142. The first demigod crystal core, the Ice Soul Domain allied forces had no advantage to begin with, and now that their morale had been severely damaged, they were at an even greater disadvantage. However, since the Ice Soul Domain demigod experts had not yet been defeated, no one dared to flee. Although Ice Sealing Demigod and Ice Killin Demigod were currently at a disadvantage, but who knew if they were hiding some extremely powerful techniques? If they ultimately won, all the Ice Soul Domain cultivators who fled now would be subject to reckoning. However, the people of the Ice Soul Domain were overthinking things. The Ice Soul Domain had paid relatively close attention to the Emperor Star allied forces, but their level of attention toward Emperor Star was clearly insufficient. If they had been serious enough, they should have had Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain dispatch large numbers of combat troops and demigods to assist in the fight. In fact, Heavenly Wolf Domain had proposed this idea initially, but Ice Soul Domain worried that Heavenly Wolf Domain might stab them in the back at a critical moment, so they did not agree. Moreover, in the eyes of many high-ranking officials of the Ice Soul Domain, 4 demigods were sufficient, and there was no need to summon more demigods to fight Emperor Star. Now, however, everyone thought differently. Especially Ice Sealing Demigod and Ice Killin Demigod, they could sense that Gu Qijue was extremely powerful. But the current Gu Qijue, in their perception, was not invincible either. If another demigod were to join, they could fight Gu Qijue to a stalemate. If 4 demigods were to besiege Gu Qijue, the head of Emperor Star would definitely be forced to retreat in defeat. But now, it was too late to say anything. At this point, they clearly had no way to get Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain to dispatch demigods to support them. Furthermore, without prior preparation, the demigods of Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain would not casually leave. Gu Qijue did not give Ice Sealing Demigod and Ice Killin Demigod much time to think. While the 2 were still regretting not agreeing to Heavenly Wolf Domain's proposal earlier, Gu Qijue was already charging toward them, holding the Blood Thunder Battle Blade. Swish! A bloody blade light spanning the heavens and earth, fiercely slashed toward Ice Sealing Demigod. That crescent-shaped bloody blade light contained extremely terrifying blood chi energy and thunder energy. Under this single slash, fragmented cracks continuously appeared in the surrounding space. Facing this slash from Gu Qijue, Ice Sealing Demigod naturally dared not be careless. However, he clearly underestimated Gu Qijue, because after that single slash, Gu Qijue actually continuously swung out dozens more slashes. This caused Ice Sealing Demigod's expression to become utterly solemn. Ice Killin Demigod, without any hesitation, appeared directly beside Ice Sealing Demigod to help him block. If he didn't help now, Ice Sealing Demigod might very well be chopped down by Gu Qijue this time. Under the combined efforts of Ice Sealing Demigod and Ice Killin Demigod, Gu Qijue's countless blade lights began colliding fiercely with the streams of cold chi they blasted out. Gu Qijue's strength was extremely formidable and terrifying. Every single Blood Thunder blade light carried immensely vast and mighty power. Boom, 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 boom. Ice Killin Demigod's spiritual power surged wildly throughout its body, and a bone-chilling ice breath was continuously spewed out by it. Ice Sealing Demigod, on the other hand, formed incantation seals with both hands, continuously blasting out ice palm seals. The ice breath and ice palm seals collided violently with Gu Qijue's Blood Thunder blade lights in midair. Although ice-sealing demigod and ice-killing demigod had both exerted all their strength, even working together, they were still no match for Gu Qijue. Crack, crack! The blood thunder blade lights slashed out by Gu Qijue continuously shattered, but large amounts of blood thunder blade light still enveloped ice-sealing demigod and ice-killing demigod. At this moment, ice-sealing demigod and ice-killing demigod were helpless. Both sides could only adopt a defensive posture and defend with all their might. The battle on their side filled Gu Qijue, demigod of Black Wind Domain, with extreme terror. Under the desperate gaze of countless Ice Soul Domain cultivators, Gu Qijue, demigod, who had been fiercely shouting moments ago, actually fled at this time. When Gu Qijue, demigod fled, old ancestor Gu Qijue did not stop him. The Ice Soul Domain will and the Emperor Star will were currently fighting to a draw. Gu Qijue, demigod, did not hesitate and immediately joined the battle. With his addition, the Ice Soul Domain will was instantly suppressed. The situation was no better than that of ice-sealing demigod and ice-killing demigod. Yet, precisely at this moment, ice-sealing battle god let out an unwilling roar. It turned out that while he was desperately resisting Gu Qijue's blood thunder blade lights, Gu Qijue appeared opposite him, holding the blood thunder battle blade. As Gu Qijue slashed downward diagonally, ice-sealing demigod could no longer resist and was instantly cut in half diagonally by Gu Qijue. Sizzle, rumble, following that, thunder rained down from the sky, and ice-sealing demigod was instantly blasted to death by Gu Qijue. After killing ice-sealing demigod, Gu Qijue immediately rejoiced. There was a reason why ice-sealing demigod's strength was greater than heavenly sword demigods. After ice-sealing demigod was killed, he actually left behind a demigod crystal core. The demigod crystal core contained ice-sealing demigod's memories and cultivation insights. After refining the demigod crystal core, one could obtain the memories and cultivation insights of that demigod, thereby grasping most of that demigod's abilities. Gu Qijue raised his hand and summoned ice-sealing demigod's demigod crystal core into his grasp. When ice-killing demigod saw ice-sealing demigod die, it was scared out of its wits. It dared not linger any longer and chose to flee, just like Gu Qijue demigod. Unfortunately, the reason Gu Qijue demigod was able to escape was that Gu Qijue demigod didn't pursue him. The situation was different for ice-killing demigod. Gu Qijue had already slain ice-sealing demigod, and naturally, he would pursue ice-killing demigod at this moment. Seeing Gu Qijue constantly pursuing from behind, ice-killing demigod could only flee desperately. Just now, even when it teamed up with ice-sealing demigod, they were not Gu Qijue's match. Now that it was left alone, it was even less likely to be Gu Qijue's opponent. Above the 9 heavens, ice-killing battle god fled frantically, but it clearly couldn't escape far. It was quickly caught by Gu Qijue. Roar, seeing that it truly couldn't escape, ice-killing demigod simply turned around and began fighting Gu Qijue desperately. Just as it suddenly opened its mouth and spewed, Gu Qijue's blood thunder battle blade also slashed down overwhelmingly. With a flash of blood light, ice-killing demigod's head was directly sliced off by Gu Qijue. Rumble! Gu Qijue then followed suit, summoning terrifying bolts of thunder to strike ice-killing demigod. Ice-killing demigod, like ice-sealing demigod, also possessed a demigod crystal core. After its demigod crystal core appeared, Gu Qijue raised his hand, summoned it, and took ice-killing demigod's demigod crystal core into his hand. After eliminating ice-sealing demigod and ice-killing demigod, Gu Qijue looked behind him. That place was where Gu Qijue demigod, the Emperor Star will, and the Ice Soul Domain will were fighting. 143. Ambitious ambition. To establish the Divine Wilderness Empire, the will of the Ice Soul Domain seemed to know that facing a 1-against-3 situation next, he was certain to die, so at this moment he made his final, desperate move. Boom! The power of the will of the Ice Soul Domain instantly boiled to the extreme. Given the strength of demigod Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star will, if the will of the Ice Soul Domain chose to self-destruct, they truly couldn't stop it. After a deafening sound rang out, the will of the Ice Soul Domain completed its self-destruction. If a demigod self-destructs, naturally, no demigod crystal core will be left behind. When a demigod self-destructs, the demigod crystal core is not the primary concern, because a demigod's self-destruction is, in most cases, a horrifying catastrophe. Back then, the will of the Tianheng Domain did not appear. Since it didn't appear, Gu Qijue and the others couldn't kill it without destroying the Tianheng Domain itself. The will of the Ice Soul Domain had no way to escape the Ice Soul Domain. under the siege of demigod Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Will. It couldn't even flee, thus when cornered, the will of the Ice Soul domain chose to self-destruct immediately. Rumble, boom, 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 boom. The might of its self-destruction was utterly terrifying. It was more terrifying than any clash that had occurred here earlier between the 7 divine rank combatants. Demigod Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Will were both directly flung away by the self-destruction of the will of the Ice Soul domain. Approximately 10% of the Emperor Star allied forces and the Ice Soul domain cultivator army were instantly killed by the self-destruction of the will of the Ice Soul domain. From this point, 4 demigod powerhouses of the Ice Soul domain allied forces were accounted for, 3 dead, 1 escaped. The great battle at the demigod level was now completely over. With the demigods' battle concluded, the fight between the Emperor Star allied forces and the Ice Soul domain allied forces was also nearing its end. A large number of Ice Soul domain cultivators began fleeing frantically. Meanwhile, a large number of other Ice Soul domain cultivators were continuously being eliminated. As long as they did not lay down their weapons and abandon resistance, they were enemies. Only a tiny minority of Ice Soul domain cultivators chose to lay down their weapons and give up resistance. The Emperor Star combat troops immediately took control of and detained these captives, regardless of what their future fate might be. This portion of the defeated cultivators, at least, would not die here. It was a pity, however, that not everyone was as rational as them. More Ice Soul domain cultivators were utterly frenzied. They were either stubbornly resisting or choosing to self-destruct immediately. Their stubborn resistance and self-destruction also bought time for the fleeing Ice Soul domain cultivators. However, as time went on, the fighting in battlefields both large and small began to gradually wind down. This battle was not easy for Emperor Star, but their gains were enormous. During the battle, the Emperor Star allied forces suffered casualties of approximately 30 billion. The original 120 billion combat troops, including the injured, were now reduced to only 90 billion. The Ice Soul domain side was undoubtedly even worse off. Out of the 180 billion Ice Soul domain allied forces, at least 60 billion died in battle. Of the remaining 120 billion Ice Soul domain allied forces, about half managed to escape. The final 60 billion cultivator army, having nowhere left to run, could only abandon resistance, lay down their weapons, and surrender. As the fighting across the various battlefields gradually came to an end, the voice of Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star spread throughout the entire Ice Soul domain. I am the head of Emperor Star. Gu Qijue, of the 4 demigods of the Ice Soul domain allied forces, 3 are dead and 1 has fled. In this military operation between Emperor Star and the Ice Soul domain, Emperor Star has achieved complete victory. The sentient beings of the Ice Soul domain have only 2 choices: either complete submission or complete death. Whether it was the Tianheng domain before or the Ice Soul domain now, they are merely ordinary battlefields on Emperor Star's path of conquest. Emperor Star's goal is to completely conquer the Shenhuang continent and establish a divine wilderness empire led by Emperor Star. When Gu Qijue reached this point, the fighting on the battlefield ceased entirely. Everyone, including the Emperor Star combat troops, was shocked by his ambition. Previously, no one had ever considered what the ultimate goal of the Emperor Star allied forces was, but now, everyone knew what their ultimate goal was. Their ultimate goal was nothing else but to conquer the entire Shenhuang continent and establish the divine wilderness empire led by Emperor Star. As everyone was profoundly shaken by this goal, Gu Qijue continued speaking. The Shenhuang continent is currently home to an unknown number of powers. These various powers have engaged in countless conflicts throughout history. If we continue to allow these powers to fight endlessly and wage war without cease, more people will only die, and more resources will only be consumed. Under these circumstances, establishing the divine wilderness super empire led by Emperor Star will completely resolve these issues. After the divine wilderness super empire is established, wars between powers will no longer occur on the Shenhuang continent. All sentient beings will be able to live and thrive peacefully under the rule of Emperor Star. All resources will be used for development and construction, instead of being endlessly consumed on the battlefield. If Gu Qijue had said this from the beginning, he would definitely have been spinning a pipe dream. But when the Emperor Star allied forces attacked the Tianheng domain, they swept through it with irresistible force and took it down easily. The Tianheng domain is now under the rule of Emperor Star. While attacking the Tianheng domain, Emperor Star also completed its internal unification and integration, elevating its strength further. After taking the Tianheng domain, Emperor Star established a trend of supporting war with war. The 120 billion combat troops of the Emperor Star allied forces soon launched a major battle against the 180 billion cultivators of the Ice Soul domain allied forces. In this great war, Emperor Star still did not take much time to successfully achieve victory. Emperor Star's current overall strength is not the strongest on the Shenhuang continent. However, Emperor Star's rate of growth is absolutely the strongest on the Shenhuang continent. After listening to Gu Qijue's passionate speech, everyone in the Emperor Star allied forces spoke up, their blood boiling with excitement. Emperor Star, victory for 10,000 generations. Emperor Star, victory for 10,000 generations. Emperor Star, victory for 10,000 generations. The Ice Soul domain cultivators who originally harbored many different thoughts now chose to wait and see. They were now prisoners, completely unable to do anything. Only a very small number of cultivators were still thinking about escaping, but if what Gu Qijue said came true, then in the future, the entire Shenhuang continent would be under the rule of Emperor Star. Since that was the case, they naturally had no need to leave the Ice Soul domain now. The battles in the Tianheng domain and the Ice Soul domain had already concluded. Next, other places would instead fall into the flames of war. Staying in the Ice Soul domain or staying in the Tianheng domain would actually be the safest option. Demigod Gu Qijue at this moment had already returned to the Black Wind domain. The first thing he did upon returning to the Black Wind domain was to recount the terror of Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star allied forces to everyone, detailing every single point. 144 After the battle, the ancient emperor once again strives to become a demigod. Heavenly Wolf domain and South Heng domain instantly understood the gravity of the situation. Even if the Emperor Star allied forces couldn't immediately turn around and attack Black Wind domain, the two demigods of Black Wind domain, the two demigods of Heavenly Wolf domain, and the two demigods of South Heng domain still held a meeting in the shortest possible time, facing the ambitious Emperor Star. Black Wind domain, Heavenly Wolf domain, and South Heng domain chose to unite without reservation. Next, Heavenly Wolf domain and South Heng domain will provide maximum support to Black Wind domain. Black Wind domain is closest to Ice Soul domain, and a large number of cultivators from Ice Soul domain, as well as a large number of cultivators from Tianheng domain in the early days, are now gathered in Black Wind domain. If Emperor Star doesn't attack Black Wind domain, Black Wind domain can clearly stab Emperor Star in the back. Attacking Ice Soul domain and Tianheng domain, which are controlled by Emperor Star. However, the three parties of Black Wind domain also know that Emperor Star will not launch a war quickly in the short term. They still have some time to make the most adequate preparations for the war that will soon arrive. Above the 9 heavens of Ice Soul domain, Gu Qijue stood proudly in midair. Beside him were demigod Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Will, who had transformed into human form. After transforming into human form, the Emperor Star Will was an extremely cold young man in black. Demigod Gu Qijue overlooked the battlefield below and spoke indifferently. The natives of Shenhuang continent already have a relatively deep understanding of our technological weapons. Gu Qijue nodded slightly upon hearing this. Indeed, although they didn't take the technological route and don't understand the principles of our technological weapons, but through various magic treasures and formations, they have effectively defended against our technological weapons. If our technological weapons do not continue to research and break through and continue to update and iterate, after a few more battles, or even in the next battle, they may be effectively targeted. Demigod Gu Qijue nodded solemnly and also said, the research, breakthrough, and iterative updates of technological weapons are the strengths of Infinite Group and Emperor Star. After the materials and energy problems are largely solved, most of Emperor Star's technology will complete an upgrade iteration. As long as Emperor Star's technology maintains its development momentum and continues to update, the natives of Shenhuang continent, without understanding technology, we can always maintain an advantage. However, Your Excellency, the head of state, is now proposing the call to conquer Shenhuang continent. Isn't it easy to make enemies for Emperor Star? Gu Qijue shook his head. This concern is unnecessary. The top forces of Shenhuang continent all want to conquer the entire Shenhuang continent, but no one has ever succeeded. Upon hearing this news, apart from the areas we have already occupied, others will only think we are joking. Demigod Gu Qijue pondered for a moment upon hearing this and realized that this was indeed the case, just like now. If a peak great emperor from Ice Soul Domain were to jump out and challenge the three of them, claiming that in the near future he would eliminate the three demigods, then Gu Qijue, he, and the Emperor Star would only think the other party was joking and would not believe that they truly had this ability. Demigod Gu Qijue thought for a moment, then continued. I suggest at least 2 weeks or even 3 weeks of rest and recuperation for 3 reasons. Firstly, to allow Emperor Star's combat troops to rest and recover. Secondly, to continue collecting resources from Ice Soul Domain and Tianheng Domain to enhance Emperor Star's overall strength. Thirdly, to strengthen Emperor Star's occupation and rule over Tianheng Domain and Ice Soul Domain. To make Tianheng Domain and Ice Soul Domain completely recognize Emperor Star and make them feel that Emperor Star establishing the Divine Wilderness Empire is possible. As the first demigod powerhouse from Emperor Star itself and the founder of Emperor Mountain, Demigod Gu Qijue, both his strength and his grasp of the situation were exceptionally good. His proposal was also well-founded, logical, and convincing. Gu Qijue was extremely pleased in his heart, because Demigod Gu Qijue had finally begun to play his role as Emperor Star's second-in-command. He appointed Demigod Gu Qijue and Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor as Emperor Star's second-in-command, hoping that these two could assist him in managing Emperor Star well. Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor had always performed very well, but Demigod Gu Qijue had been relatively silent before. After conquering Ice Soul Domain and learning of Gu Qijue's goal, Demigod Gu Qijue's confidence and fighting spirit were ignited. After his suggestion, Gu Qijue nodded and said, "Next, let Emperor Star's combat troops rest for 3 weeks. Quickly digest and absorb the gains from the past 2 major battles and prepare for the next battle. Let Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, Gu Yong's, and others try to break through to Demigod." Demigod Gu Qijue had absolutely no problem with Gu Qijue's arrangements, but he still couldn't help but ask, "Your Excellency, the head of state, are you not preparing to break through to Demigod?" Gu Qijue shook his head and gave an answer that left Demigod Gu Qijue dumbfounded. "The resources I need to consume to break through to Demigod are enormous. It's no exaggeration to say that the resources I consume in this process may be 30, or even 50 times that of an ordinary great emperor advancing to Demigod." He wasn't exaggerating, his foundation was too solid, which meant the resources required for his cultivation and advancement were also terrifying. Even exhausting all of Emperor Star's current reserves of advanced resources might not be enough for him to become a demigod. His current plan is to conquer Black Wind Domain, Heavenly Wolf Domain, and South Heng Domain entirely before attempting to break through to demigod. By then, Emperor Star will have enough powerhouses to guard all directions and gather resources. There will inevitably also be enough resources for him to attempt to break through to demigod. After this great war, Emperor Gu Yong's, as expected, once again chose to go into seclusion to attempt a breakthrough to demigod. During this war, his Taegu group acquired a large amount of resources. These resources were well-deserved by Emperor Gu Yong's and Taegu group. Gu Qijue couldn't really say anything to him, no matter what he did with these resources. However, Gu Qijue still wanted to say that Gu Yong's better not waste resources. His foundation was not yet solid and refined enough. Just like building a 10,000 jang tall building, it must have a very solid foundation. With the current solidity of his foundation, it would be unable to support a divine rank 10,000 jang tall building. Therefore, there was a 99% chance that his attempt to break through to demigod this time would fail, but there was still a 1% chance of success, becoming a relatively weak demigod. So at this time, Gu Qijue did not directly stop Gu Yong's. Compared to Gu Yong's, Dao Taiwang was much wiser. He did not directly announce his seclusion to attempt a breakthrough to demigod, but instead sought out Demigod Gu Qijue, an experienced individual, for consultation. 145. The powerful who disappeared collectively. The war between the Ice Soul Domain and the Emperor Star ended, which was beneficial to both sides. A large number of casualties received immediate treatment. The existing structure was completely broken, giving everyone the possibility of a fresh start. But war is war, accompanied by countless bloodshed and death. There is only one way to completely end all wars. That is to make the Shenhuang continent and the Emperor Star one entity. It could be the Emperor Star conquering the entire Shenhuang continent, or it could be a rising power from the Shenhuang continent conquering the Emperor Star and other forces on the Shenhuang continent. After that, the Shenhuang super empire that Gu Qijue spoke of would be born. Of course, it's still too early to talk about those things now. Above the ice soul domain, Gu Qijue, Daikui demigod, and the stern young man formed by the Emperor Star Will stood proudly in the air. Dao Taihuang's figure soon appeared not far from them. This time, Dao Taihuang came for a matter of extreme importance. Arriving not far from the three of Gu Qijue, Dao Taihuang bowed slightly before speaking. Your Excellency, the head of state, Your Excellency, the vice head of state, I have something I wish to ask. Gu Qijue said indifferently, What do you wish to ask? Dao Taihuang said seriously. I want to know if I can attempt to break through to demigod now. This matter was extremely important to Dao Taihuang and to the Emperor Star. The Emperor Star was currently at war with forces on the edge of the Shenhuang continent, and these forces were not very strong compared to the Emperor Star. But if the Emperor Star wanted to conquer the entire Shenhuang continent, it would need to continuously sustain itself through war and continuously produce experts, especially demigod experts. After Dao Taihuang asked, Daikui demigod shook his head. Everyone's situation when attempting to break through to demigod is different. This old ancestor cannot provide you with too much experience. This old ancestor can only say that if you feel confident and can bear the loss of a failed breakthrough, you can give it a try. After Daikui demigod finished speaking, Gu Qijue shook his head slightly. In my perception, your current situation is on par with Gu Yang's. Both of you have an extremely low probability of breaking through to demigod, but it's best not to rush. After a period of further consolidation, your chances of breaking through to demigod will be greater. When Dao Taihuang heard Daikui demigod's words, he actually wanted to try. A failed breakthrough would merely result in the loss of a large amount of cultivation resources. But after Gu Qijue spoke, he still decided to heed Gu Qijue's advice. Since Gu Qijue believed that his current success rate for breaking through to demigod was not very high, he would simply consolidate for a while longer before attempting to break through to demigod. Thinking of this, Dao Taihuang bowed to the three of Gu Qijue again, then took his leave. After Dao Taihuang left, Daikui demigod asked seriously, Does the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor have a chance to break through to demigod? Gu Qijue nodded, Indeed, but if she tries to break through to demigod now, she'd have at most a 30% chance. Daikui demigod sighed slightly upon hearing this. As someone who had gone through it, he knew how difficult it was to break through to demigod. As the war continued, the Emperor Star having only 3 demigod-level combatants was clearly insufficient. Otherwise, Daikui demigod would not be so concerned about the matter of demigods. After exchanging a few more words with Daikui demigod, Gu Qijue headed to the Infinite Group's floating base. This was one of the Infinite Group's most advanced technological products, and he came here to rest and recuperate. Upon returning to the top floor of the Infinite Group's floating base, Gu Qijue summoned Jia Yinyu. A quarter of an hour later, Jia Yinyu, having received the message, arrived at the Infinite Group's floating base. Seeing her, Gu Qijue smiled, You'll soon become an Emperor rank expert. Jia Yinyu smiled brightly, Thanks to your help, otherwise I couldn't have grown so fast. For a long time, my ultimate goal was to become a demon emperor like Heavenly Moon Old Ancestor. I never thought my ultimate goal would be achieved so quickly. It seems I also have great hope of attempting to break through to demigod. Gu Qijue nodded. With your current bloodline purity, you possess the potential to break through to demigod. However, this process will be relatively slow. Jia Yinyu was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, So, Your Excellency, the head of state, is planning to help me improve my bloodline purity? Gu Qijue didn't speak, but answered with his actions. He walked up to Jia Yinyu, lifted the incomparably beautiful Jia Yinyu into his arms. Then, he walked towards the lounge inside. As he walked, Gu Qijue spoke, Actually, I called you over this time to discuss serious matters. But since you want to purify your bloodline, we can do the serious matter first, then discuss the serious matter afterwards. Jia Yinyu heard Gu Qijue's teasing and immediately retorted, If you're so capable, why don't we do the serious matter and discuss the serious matter at the same time? Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, Gu Qijue smiled upon hearing this. I have no problem, I'm just afraid you can't handle it. HMPH, Jia Yinyu scoffed, then said, Who knows who can't handle it? Gu Qijue picked up Jia Yinyu, kissed her flawless pretty face and said, Who was it that cried and begged for mercy on the floating treasure ship before? Jia Yinyu's cheeks flushed at his words, recalling those beautiful memories. At that time, she couldn't even believe that the Emperor Star could conquer the Ice Soul domain so quickly. However, Gu Qijue kept teasing her with those things, and she was not convinced. Jai Yinyu hummed lightly and said, "A hero doesn't boast about past glories, just make sure you can stand straight later." At the same time, Emperor Gu Yong's, full of confidence, began to attempt to break through to demigod. Around him were various energy crystals with extremely high energy purity, as well as many other treasures. Basically, 3/10 of the Tegu group's gains from occupying the Ice Soul domain were all here. The gains of other groups and other overlord-level forces were similar to the Tegu group. If their leaders also had the idea of breaking through to demigod, then by expending about 3/10 of their treasures and resources, they could attempt the breakthrough. Dao Taihuang, guided by Gu Qijue, did not do this, but other experts, including the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, were all preparing to try and break through to demigod. In the past, they didn't know what the concept of a demigod truly was, so it was fine. Now that they knew the terror of demigod experts, they naturally couldn't sit still. There was only half a step separating a peak great emperor and a demigod, however. The strength of a peak great emperor was vastly different from that of a demigod. Even a weak demigod could easily and ruthlessly suppress a peak great emperor. Under such circumstances, Gu Yong's, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, and other peak great emperors naturally had to try and break through to demigod. For a time, the top experts of the Emperor Star simply vanished without a trace. 146. New discoveries about nightmares without exception. These vanished experts were all heading toward the demigod realm with all their might. However, the path for them to assault the demigod realm was destined to be bumpy. Among the top experts of Emperor Star, Gu Yong's was the first to attempt breaking through to the demigod realm. This wasn't his first attempt at reaching demigod status. He had tried it before while still on Emperor Star. But Old Man Gu was persistent. He firmly believed he also possessed the qualifications to become a demigod. Besides, failure is the grandmother of success. Since he had learned from his previous failure, there was no reason why he shouldn't succeed this time. And then he failed, yes. Emperor Gu Yong's failed his second attempt to break through to the demigod realm. Inside the cultivation room of the Tegu group's floating base, Emperor Gu Yong's was completely stunned. This is outrageous. Why is breaking through to the demigod realm so difficult? Breaking through to the demigod realm, put simply, requires only one thing, that is to find a way to condense the demigod crystal core. As long as the demigod crystal core is condensed, one can become a demigod. When a peak great emperor encounters a demigod, it is generally like striking a rock with an egg. The reason why it's generally like striking a rock with an egg is that there are exceptions, and the head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star is one of them. Throughout his journey, the foundation of every stage he passed through was solidified to the extreme. When others build a 100-story building, they use reinforced concrete. When he builds a 100-story building, he uses pure titanium alloy. Although both are 100-story buildings of the same height, the strength difference is massive. With such deep accumulation, ordinary demigods are simply not qualified to fight Gu Qijue. Although the two, Ice-Sealing Demigod and Ice-Killing Demigod, have some skill, they still cannot force Gu Qijue to use his second form, let alone his third form. Especially the third form and the fourth form he is about to comprehend will probably only be needed when slaying gods. Emperor Gu Yong's didn't care how formidable the head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was. Old Man Gu only cared about one thing, how to become formidable himself. Unfortunately, his path to becoming a demigod was extremely rough. The first time, his demigod crystal core shattered completely before even revealing its outline. This time was better. The outline of the demigod crystal core appeared. But before he could continue condensing it, the demigod crystal core inside his body surprisingly shattered again. Not only did Gu Yong's fail, but Bei Qingshan and the other peak great emperors also failed in succession at this time. The only one still persisting was the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor's strength and foundation were stronger than everyone else's. Her probability of becoming a demigod was also higher than the others. But whether she could actually become a demigod was hard to say. Jai Tianyu was currently in seclusion, attempting the breakthrough to demigod status in a cultivation room at the Tianyue group. The resources she consumed were greater than Gu Yong's. Her progress in breaking through to demigod status was also faster than Gu Yong's. Crack, however. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor ultimately failed to complete the transformation. Her demigod crystal core shattered shortly after condensing halfway, unable to continue. Although the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor failed to become a demigod. However, after Jai Yinyu's bloodline was purified once more, She successfully completed her transformation and became an Imperial rank expert. Jia Yinyu was completely stunned at the moment, because the way she broke through to Great Emperor status might not be unprecedented, but it was certainly unique. Her breakthrough method was passive. She was broken through into a Great Emperor. Although Jia Yinyu was already sitting cross-legged, regulating her breath, and starting to consolidate her Imperial rank strength, she was still drenched in sweat and her little heart was pounding wildly. She became Imperial rank naturally without any preparation whatsoever. As time passed, her Imperial rank strength gradually became consolidated. Gu Qijue had already finished showering in the bathroom and was now reading a magazine. After being fully released, the energy within his body seemed to become even purer and more condensed. While sitting on the sofa reading the magazine, Gu Qijue simultaneously observed Jia Yinyu, whose face was flushed. Jia Yinyu's skin was so tender it seemed ready to burst, and her flushed, rosy white face was incredibly alluring. While reading the magazine, Gu Qijue couldn't help but feel an impulse to go over and kiss her fiercely a few times. However, Jia Yinyu was currently consolidating her strength, and he couldn't disturb her. Of course, he had that much discretion. After casually picking up the magazine and glancing through it, Gu Qijue shifted his attention back to the meteorite ore. Meteorite ore is reportedly named as such because it comes from outside the heavens. It is no longer a secret that meteorite alloy can be refined from meteorite ore. However, refining meteorite alloy using meteorite ore involves a massive technological barrier. Currently, there are only two ways to achieve this. The first method is to consume a large amount of energy stones to continuously charge the meteorite ore. After absorbing a large amount of energy, the impurities in the meteorite ore gradually turn into dust, and what remains is the meteorite alloy. The cost of this method is extremely high, using the resulting meteorite alloy to build a Great Emperor-level war machine. The cost involved in this process is already enough to cultivate 20 Great Emperor experts. Therefore, this kind of thankless task is generally not undertaken by anyone. The meteorite alloy currently refined by major groups and overlord-level powers is mostly used to forge weapons. In fact, it's often only used to forge critical parts of weapons, such as the blade of a saber or the edge of a sword. The second method is to have demigods and top Great Emperors serve as human refining furnaces. The stronger the expert, the higher the efficiency of refining meteorite alloy from meteorite ore, but this method is also very troublesome. A demigod, doing nothing else for an entire day, can only refine one piece of meteorite alloy. As for the refining speed of a peak Great Emperor, it is naturally even more pitiful. Gu Qijue now held a piece of meteorite alloy and began to examine it closely. He needed to find a more efficient method, as meteorite alloy is a very useful material. But if the refining efficiency cannot be increased, it is like guarding a treasure mountain and sighing in vain. While Gu Qijue was contemplating how to improve the efficiency of refining meteorite alloy, his communicator received a communication request from Nightmare. Nightmare is the Emperor Star's central intelligence, controlling all knowledge on Emperor Star. After the Ice Soul domain was occupied, various types of knowledge from the Ice Soul domain were rapidly being input into the Nightmare central intelligence. Upon receiving the communication request from Nightmare, Gu Qijue casually accepted it. What is it? Nightmare, still in the transparent form of Gu Yinling, appeared before Gu Qijue and bowed respectfully. Then he spoke. Your Excellency, the head of state, I may have some discoveries that will interest you. Gu Qijue became interested. Tell me about it. A transparent light projection began to appear before Gu Qijue. Nightmare also began to explain what the data was about. 147. Have you ever heard of the God-making project? There was once an artifact refiner in the Ice Soul domain who discovered that if meteorite ore, infinite crystal stone, and a demigod crystal core were refined together, then, by consuming one demigod crystal core, approximately 10,000 pieces of meteorite alloy could be refined. However, the demigod crystal core obtained by this artifact refiner was only a small amount of powder, so his experiment could not continue. Nightmare was right this time. Gu Qijue was genuinely very interested in this discovery, because he currently had a great need for meteorite alloy, and he possessed a large number of infinite crystal stones. Of course, infinite crystal stone was his name for it. This type of energy stones had various strange names in the Ice Soul domain, Tianheng domain, and other places. Nightmare, like him, directly referred to these energy stones as infinite crystal stones. After carefully reviewing the materials provided by Nightmare, Gu Qijue said, Change your appearance to that of a middle-aged gentleman butler. As you command. Your Excellency, the head of state? Hearing this, Nightmare immediately complied. Before long, his appearance transformed into that of a middle-aged gentleman. Gu Qijue nodded in satisfaction and then asked, "What is the success rate of refining meteorite alloy by mixing meteorite ore, demigod crystal core, and infinite crystal stone? Is this cost-effective? Are there any better methods?" Nightmare shook his head after hearing this. "Your Excellency, the head of state, I cannot find relevant content in my database. As for whether doing this is cost-effective, I can provide some data. A demigod crystal core can be used to help a peak Great Emperor advance to a demigod. The better the fit between the Great Emperor and the demigod crystal core, the higher the probability of the Great Emperor successfully advancing to a demigod. If a Great Emperor successfully advances to a demigod and refines one piece of meteorite alloy every day, then he would need 10,000 days to refine 10,000 pieces of meteorite alloy. The advantage is that after refining 10,000 pieces of meteorite alloy, he can continue to refine a second 10,000 pieces of meteorite alloy. It depends on whether Your Excellency, the head of state, seeks short-term profit or massive long-term returns." After listening, Gu Qijue immediately made a decision. "For now, I should first turn the demigod crystal core into meteorite alloy. With enough meteorite alloy, it might be possible to manufacture divine rank mechanical lifeforms. At that time, I can use the divine rank mechanical lifeforms to refine the meteorite alloy. When combat is needed, I'll let them participate in the fighting. When combat is not needed, I'll just have them continue refining meteorite alloy." Having made up his mind, Gu Qijue got up and headed to the laboratory in the floating base. He intended to try refining the meteorite alloy in the floating base's laboratory. This task could be done using the Infinite Engine. However, he hoped that the Infinite Group's production workshop could also handle this task. The Infinite Engine should still be used for tasks that are technically demanding, challenging, and pioneering. These kinds of mechanically repetitive, non-technical tasks could be handled by the production workshop. Arriving at the Infinite Group floating base's laboratory, he walked directly to a massive silver refining furnace. Large amounts of meteorite ore and infinite crystal stone continuously fell from his spatial device into the massive refining furnace. This refining furnace also received computing power and intelligence from Nightmare. Soon, Nightmare's voice rang out, "Your Excellency, the head of state, the demigod crystal core can be added now." Gu Qijue nodded slightly, then placed the demigod crystal core into the refining furnace. The silver refining furnace quickly sealed up and began the refining process. Facts proved that this refining method was feasible. Although he didn't know the principle behind it yet, it was certainly effective. Gu Qijue watched as the silver refining furnace refined piece after piece of meteorite alloy at a speed almost visible to the naked eye. Although this method was good, it was a bit wasteful of demigods. Gu Qijue was willing to trade one demigod crystal core for 10,000 pieces of meteorite alloy. If the same question were posed to a demigod powerhouse, they would definitely be unwilling, because under normal circumstances, they only possess one demigod crystal core within their bodies. Gu Qijue was extremely happy watching the continuous emergence of large amounts of meteorite alloy. His consciousness directly communicated with the Infinite Engine, asking what items could be forged using so much meteorite alloy combined with his existing materials. Buzz, the Infinite Engine rapidly calculated and operated, and after about 3 seconds, it presented a large number of proposals in his mind. The proposals provided by the Infinite Engine mainly fell into 4 categories: cold weapons, technological weapons, mechanical lifeforms, and artificially synthesized lifeforms. The Mist Moon mecha, like Jai Yinyu's, was included in the category of technological weapons. Gu Qijue glanced over them and first chose the artificially synthesized lifeforms. After just one look, he felt a slight surprise in his heart. The resources he currently possessed were actually enough to manufacture a demigod. By consuming one demigod crystal core, approximately 3,000 infinite crystal stones, about 5,000 pieces of meteorite alloy, and many other advanced materials, he could create a demigod. Even for him now, manufacturing a demigod was an exciting prospect. Unfortunately, he only had one demigod crystal core, so he could only manufacture one demigod. Furthermore, he now knew the cost of manufacturing a demigod. Currently, manufacturing one demigod required consuming 1.5 demigods. If calculated this way, manufacturing a demigod was clearly a losing business. But actually, it wasn't a loss. because the demigod crystal core was left behind after an enemy demigod perished. The demigod lifeform manufactured by the infinite engine would be a demigod servant completely loyal to him. Thinking of this, what was there to hesitate about? Of course, it was God creation. To be precise, it was manufacturing a demigod. After Gu Qijue decided to manufacture a demigod, a large number of demigod lifeform design proposals appeared in his mind. The infinite engine was clearly an incredibly amazing technological product. Its technological content was so high that it surpassed the understanding of Emperor Star's existing technology. Given Emperor Star's technological level, manufacturing a great Emperor-level lifeform would be tough, let alone manufacturing a demigod lifeform. When he began selecting the manufacturing proposal, Gu Qijue had a bold idea. That was to manufacture a beautiful demigod-level lifeform according to his aesthetic preferences to fill his harem. Of course, this was also feasible. As the head of Emperor Star and the future emperor of the super god Desolate Empire, it was perfectly normal for him to have 3,000 beauties in his harem. Moreover, the top-tier materials he currently possessed were indeed sufficient to manufacture a beautiful demigod. After some contemplation, Gu Qijue ultimately chose the manufacturing proposal for a beautiful demigod named Victoria. The demigod crystal core obtained not long ago was now completely consumed. The infinite crystal stones in his control device instantly decreased by 3,000. Not only that, but the continuously refining meteorite alloy was also being steadily absorbed by the infinite engine. Many spoils of war in his spatial device, which he couldn't even name, were also absorbed by the infinite engine. It seemed the cost of manufacturing the beautiful demigod was higher than he had imagined. 148, the new demigod of the infinite group, while the heads of other groups and hegemonic forces on Emperor Star were still striving to reach the demigod rank. Gu Qijue was already playing a different game than them. At this moment, he was using the infinite engine and massive resources to create demigods. From the current consumption, the resources required to create one demigod were already equivalent to the value of 2 demigods. However, a demigod created by oneself could be tailored to one's needs and would be 100% loyal. Therefore, there was no need to show mercy to enemy demigods. After eliminating the opponent and obtaining their demigod crystal core, it could be used to create the demigod one needed. Buzz, the infinite engine continued to hum. With 1 demigod crystal core, 3,000 infinite crystal stones, and 5,000 meteoric iron alloys, as well as a large amount of other resources, some known and some unknown to Gu Qijue. At this moment, all were rapidly disappearing, melting into a warm white ball of light. About an hour later, this warm white ball of light finally underwent some changes. Click, a crisp sound was heard, and then the warm white light ball completely vanished. The next moment, an extremely exquisite and graceful figure, enveloped in white light, appeared before Gu Qijue. This was a tall beauty with golden hair, blue eyes, and snow-white skin. Upon her appearance, she bowed to Gu Qijue. "Your Excellency, the head of state, Victoria awaits your command," Gu Qijue casually said. "Dispense with the formalities." After he finished speaking, Victoria straightened up. Gu Qijue could now get a good look at Victoria. Victoria was an extremely beautiful woman. She was not only beautiful but also powerful. Although her demigod crystal core was only at demigod rank 1, her ability purity was very high. Her life form was very perfect, and her foundation was very solid. Dealing with a demigod like Gu Qijue, whose demigod crystal core was at demigod rank 3, would be no problem at all. This was the power of the infinite engine. As long as there were enough materials and enough energy, even demigods could be easily created. Gu Qijue now began to check Victoria's panel through the infinite engine. Victoria was a demigod skilled in ice power, similar to Ice Seal demigod and Ice Kiln demigod. However, her life form was higher than that of Ice Seal demigod and Ice Kiln demigod. If they were to fight, Ice Seal demigod and Ice Kiln demigod would certainly not be her match. Gu Qijue thought for a moment and said, "Victoria, come outside with me for a spar." "As you command, Your Excellency, the head of state." Victoria didn't know why Gu Qijue wanted to spar with her, but since it was Gu Qijue's order, she naturally obeyed unconditionally. Soon, 2 powerful figures appeared above the Ice Soul domain. As Gu Qijue's terrifying power, comparable to a demigod, and Victoria's true demigod power were unleashed, the Ice Soul domain immediately stirred in all directions. The first to appear, of course, was Gu Qijue demigod. After Gu Qijue demigod appeared, he was somewhat dumbfounded. He couldn't understand what was happening. In midair, a strange demigod stood opposite Gu Qijue, but that strange demigod didn't seem to be an enemy. He could only feel intense battle intent from her, not hostility or killing intent. Could it be that a demigod from some force was bored and came to challenge Gu Qijue to a fight? Emperor Gu Yang's, who had recently failed in his closed-door cultivation to break through to demigod rank, and the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor and others, also appeared at this moment. Upon their appearance, everyone looked at Victoria in midair with some tension. Demigods possessed an extremely terrifying deterrent force over beings below the demigod rank. Gu Qijue had thought before that the commotion here would attract everyone's attention. Therefore, he did not directly engage Victoria, precisely because he was worried about causing misunderstanding among the crowd, making them think a powerful demigod had attacked. After everyone appeared one after another, he also spoke. Everyone. No need to be nervous. Victoria is a member of the Infinite Group, not our enemy. I'm just sparring with her a bit, you don't need to worry. Gu Qijue's words greatly surprised the leaders of the various groups and hegemonic forces on Emperor Star. The Infinite Group already had the Emperor Star, Will, and Gu Qijue, two demigod-rank combatants. Who would have thought that Gu Qijue, using some unknown method, had now given the Infinite Group a third demigod? The Infinite Group seemed to hide endless secrets, and everyone seemed to never fully uncover them, just when they thought they understood the Infinite Group quite well. Gu Qijue and his Infinite Group would present something new that would astonish everyone, just like now. Emperor Gu Yang's racked his brain but couldn't understand where the Infinite Group's demigod expert came from. Gu Qijue sparred with Victoria under everyone's gaze for three purposes. Firstly, he wanted to know Victoria's combat power. Secondly, to strengthen the confidence of the Emperor Star Alliance, various groups, and various forces. The Emperor Star Alliance now also possessed 4 demigod-rank combatants. Thirdly, to add more mystery to the Infinite Group, making everyone feel that the Infinite Group truly had infinite possibilities. To some extent, this also served to boost everyone's confidence. The journey of the Emperor Star Alliance would still be very long. Without sufficient confidence, the Emperor Star Alliance would clearly not be able to reach the end. Under everyone's gaze, Gu Qijue also nodded slightly to Victoria. Victoria, you may make your move. As you command, Your Excellency the Head of State. Victoria waved her hand, and streams of cold current transformed into a longsword in her slender jade hand. Gu Qijue did not delay, directly raising his hand to summon his thunder battle saber. As wisps of blood chi surged in, the thunder battle saber further advanced, becoming the blood thunder battle saber. Swish! Victoria waved her hand, and a dazzling ice blue sword light struck towards him. This was not a crescent-shaped sword light, but a straight-line segment. The longsword in Victoria's hand was also not an eastern sword, but a western rapier. Swish! Facing Victoria's sword, Gu Qijue casually swung his saber, shattering her sword light. However, at this moment, Victoria had already charged forward with her sharp sword in hand. Clang! Victoria's sharp sword soon fiercely clashed with Gu Qijue's blood thunder battle saber. In this clash, Gu Qijue remained motionless, while Victoria felt her arm go numb from the shock. Clang, clang, clang. Next, the 2 demigod-rank combatants began to rapidly exchange blows above the 9 heavens. Gu Qijue remained calm and composed throughout, his footsteps barely moving.